Targum Onkelos on the book Bereshit, or Genesis. Genesis 1. In the first times the Lord created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was waste and empty, and darkness was upon the face of the abyss, and a wind from before the Lord blew upon the face of the waters. And the Lord said, Let there be a light, and there was light. And the Lord saw the light that it was good. And the Lord distinguished between the light and between the darkness. And the Lord called the light the day, and the darkness he called the night. And there was evening, and there was morning, day the first. And the Lord said, Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it distinguish between waters and waters. And the Lord made the expanse, and distinguished between the waters which were under the expanse, and between the waters which were above the expanse, and it was so. And the Lord called the expanse the heavens. And it was evening, and it was morning, the second day. And the Lord said, The waters shall be collected under the heavens into one region, and the dry land shall appear. And it was so. And the Lord called the dry land earth, and the place of the collection of waters he called sea. And the Lord saw that it was good. And the Lord said, The earth shall bring forth grass, the plant whose germ seed is to be sown, the fruit tree making fruit according to its kind, whose germ seed is in it upon the earth. And it was so. And the earth put forth grass, the herb, whose germ seed is sown after its kind, and the tree making fruit, whose seed is in it after its kind. And the Lord saw that it was good. And it was evening, and it was morning, day the third. And the Lord said, There shall be lights in the expanse of heaven, to distinguish between the day and the night, and they shall be for signs and for times, for the numbering of days and years. And they shall be for luminaries in the expanse of heaven to shine upon the earth. And it was so. And the Lord made the two great luminaries, the greater luminary to rule in the day, and the smaller luminary to rule in the night, and the stars. And the Lord set them in the expanse of heaven to shine upon the earth, and to rule in the day and in the night, and to distinguish between light and darkness. And the Lord saw that it was good. And there was evening, and there was morning, day the fourth. And the Lord said, Let the waters generate the moving creature having life, and the fowl which flieth over the earth on the face of the expanse of heaven. And the Lord created the great Daninia and every living animal which moveth, which the waters generated according to their kind, and every fowl which flieth according to his kind. And the Lord saw that it was good. And the Lord blessed them, saying, Spread abroad and become many, and fill the waters of the seas, and let the fowl become many on the earth. And it was evening, and it was morning, day the fifth. And the Lord said, Let the earth produce the living animal after its kind, cattle, and reptile, and beast of the earth, according to its kind. And it was so. And the Lord made the beast of the earth after its kind, and cattle after their kind, and every reptile of the earth after its kind. And the Lord saw that it was good. And the Lord said, Let us make man in our image, as our likeness, and shall have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the heavens, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every reptile which moveth upon the earth. And the Lord created the Adam in his image, in the image of the Lord he created him, male and female he created them. And the Lord blessed them, and said to them, Spread abroad, and become many, and fill the earth, and be strong upon it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the heavens, and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. And the Lord said, Behold, I have given to you every plant which seedeth green seed which is upon all the earth, and every tree in which is the fruit of the tree which seedeth germ seed. Unto you it shall be for food, and unto every beast of the earth, and to every fowl of the heavens, and to every reptile upon the earth in which is the breath of life, every green herb to eat. And it was so. And the Lord saw all that he had made, and, behold, it was very steadfast. And it was evening, and it was morning, day the sixth. Genesis 2. And the heavens and the earth and all their host were completed. And the Lord finished in the seventh day his work which he had wrought, and rested in the seventh day from all his work which he had wrought. And the Lord blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because in it he rested from all his work which the Lord had created to make. These are the memorials of the heavens and the earth, when they were created in the day when the Lord God made the earth and the heavens. And all trees of the field were not yet in the earth, and every herb of the field had not yet sprung up, because the Lord God had not caused rain to come upon the earth, and there was no man to cultivate the ground. And a mist ascended from the earth, and moistened all the face of the ground. And the Lord God created Adam from dust of the ground, and breathed upon his face the breath of lives, and it became in Adam a discoursing spirit. And the Lord God planted a garden in a region of pleasantness in the time of the beginning, and he made to dwell there the man whom he had created. And the Lord God caused to grow from the earth every tree desirable to look upon, and good for food, and the tree of life lives in the midst of the garden, and the tree of whose fruit they who eat know between good and evil. And a river went forth from Eden to water the garden, and from thence it was divided and became 4 heads of rivers or 4 chief rivers. The name of the first is Pishon, that which encompasseth all the land of Havilah, where is gold, and the gold of that land is good, there is bidalka and beryl stones. And the name of the second river is Gihon, which encompasseth all the land of Cush. And the name of the third river is Digilatl, which goeth to the east of Ather. And the fourth river is Pharat. And the Lord God took Adam and placed him in the Garden of Eden to culture it and keep it. And the Lord God commanded Adam, saying, Of every tree of the garden eating thou mayest eat, but of the tree of whose fruit they who eat know between good and evil thou shalt not eat, for in the day that thou eatest of it dying thou shalt die. And the Lord God said, It is not right that Adam should be solitary, I will make for him a helper as for his sake or, as suited to him, Kenegdo, as his counterpart. And the Lord God created from the earth every beast of the field and every fowl of the heavens, and brought them to Adam to see what he would call him, and every name by which Adam called the living animal, that was its name. And Adam called the name of all cattle, and of the fowl of the heaven, and of every beast of the field, but to Adam was not found a helper as for him. And the Lord God threw a sleep upon Adam, and he slept, and he took one of his ribs, and filled with flesh in place thereof, and the Lord God builded the rib which he took from Adam into woman, and he brought her unto Adam. And Adam said, This time is bone of my bone, and flesh of my flesh, this shall be called woman, because from her husband this was taken. Therefore shall a man forsake the couch Bethmeshkeb, the sleeping house of his father and his mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they shall be of one flesh. And they were both naked, Adam and his wife, and were not ashamed. Genesis 3. And the serpent Chivia was more crafty than all the animals of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said to the woman, Is it in truth that the Lord said, You shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said to the serpent, Of the fruit of the trees of the garden we may eat, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Lord hath said, You shall not eat of it, nor approach to it, lest you die. And the serpent said to the woman, Not to die will you die, for it is manifest before the Lord, that in the day in which you eat of it your eyes will be opened, and you will be Ki-Reberban as the great ones, knowing good and evil. And the woman saw that the tree was good to eat, and that it was salutary to the eyes, and a tree desirable to contemplate, and she took of its fruit a jiba and ate, and she gave to her husband with her, and he ate. And the eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed for themselves the leaves of the fig tree, and made for themselves cinctures. And they heard the voice of the word of the Lord God walking in the garden in the evening of the day, and Adam and his wife hid themselves from before the Lord God among the trees of the garden. And the Lord God called to Adam and said to him, Where art thou? And he said, The voice of thy word heard I in the garden, and I was afraid, because I was naked, and I would hide. And he said, Who showed thee that thou wast naked? Of the tree of which I commanded that eating of it thou shouldst not eat, hast thou eaten? And Adam said, The woman whom thou gavest to be with me, she gave to me of the tree, and I did eat. And the Lord God said to the woman, What is this that thou hast done? And the woman said, The serpent led me astray, and I did eat. And the Lord God said to the serpent, Because thou hast done this, more accursed art thou than all cattle, and than all the beasts of the field, upon thy belly shalt thou go, and the dust shalt thou eat all the days of thy life. And I will put enmity between thee and between the woman, and between thy son and her son. He will remember thee, what thou didst to him from the beginning, and thou shalt be observant unto him at the end. And to the woman he said, Multiplying, I will multiply thy sorrows and thy pains. In sorrow shalt thou bring forth children, and unto thy husband shall be thy desire, and life. He shall rule over thee. And unto Adam he said, Because thou hast obeyed the word of thy wife, and hast eaten of the tree about which I commanded thee, saying, Thou shalt not eat of it, accursed is the ground on thy account. With labor shalt thou eat from it all the days of thy life. Thorns and thistles it shall put forth for thee, and thou shalt eat the herb of the field. In the sweat of thy face shalt thou eat bread, until that thou return to the earth, because from it thou wast created, for dust thou art, and to dust thou wilt return. And Adam called the name of his wife Havah, because she was the mother of all the children of men. And the Lord God made for Adam and for his wife vestments of honor upon the skin of their flesh, and clothed them. And the Lord God said, Behold, man is become singular or alone, yet in the world by himself, knowing good and evil, and now, lest he stretch forth his hand and take also of the tree of life, and eat, and live forever. And the Lord God sent him forth from the Garden of Eden to till the ground from whence he had been created. And he drove out the man, and before the Garden of Eden he caused to dwell the Cherubiah, and the sharp sword which revolved to keep the way of the tree of life. Genesis 4. And Adam knew Havah his wife, and she conceived, and gave birth to Cain, and she said I have acquired the man from before the Lord. And she added to give birth to his brother, Habel. And Habel was a shepherd of the flock, and Cain a man working on the ground. And it was at the end or complement of days, that Cain brought of the product of the earth an oblation before the Lord, and Habel he brought also of the firstborn of his sheep and of their fatlings. And there was acceptableness before the Lord in Habel and in his oblation, but in Cain and his oblation there was not acceptableness. And it was greatly displeasing to Cain, and his countenance was downcast. And the Lord said to Cain, Why art thou displeased, and why is thy countenance downcast? If thou doest thy work well, is it not remitted to thee? And if thou doest not thy work well, thy sin unto the day of judgment is reserved, when it will be exacted of thee, if thou convert not, but if thou convert, it is remitted to thee. And Cain spake with Habel his brother, and it was in their being in the field that Cain arose against Habel his brother, and killed him. And the Lord said to Cain, Where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not, am I the keeper of my brother? And he said, What hast thou done? The voice of the blood of generations which were to come from thy brother complaineth before me, from the earth. And now, accursed art thou from the earth, which hath opened her mouth and received the blood of thy brother from thy hand. When thou tillest the earth, it shall not add to give its virtue to thee, a castaway and a wanderer shalt thou be in the earth. And Cain said before the Lord, Greater is my guilt than may be forgiven. Behold, thou hast rejected me this day from the face of the earth, and from thy presence it is not possible to hide, and I shall be a castaway and a wanderer in the earth, and anyone who findeth me will slay me. And the Lord said to him, Therefore anyone who killeth Cain, unto 7 generations it shall be exacted of him. And the Lord set unto Cain a sign, lest anyone who found him should kill him. And Cain went out from before the Lord, and dwelt in the land of the wanderer and outcast, which was made for him in the beginnings in the Garden of Eden. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bare Hanoch, and he became the builder of a city, and called the name of the city after the name of his son Hanoch. And there was born to Hanoch Ered, and Ered begat Mahujael, and Mahujael begat Methusael, and Methusael begat Lamech. And Lamech took unto him 2 wives, the name of the one Ada, and the name of the second Zillah. And Ada bare Jabal, he was the master rab of all dwellers in tents and lords of cattle. And the name of his brother was Jubal. He was the master of all who play upon the mouth of the pipe, who know the song of the harp and of the organ. And Zillah also, she bare Tubal-Cain, the master of all them who understand the working of brass and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. And Lamech said to his wives Ada and Zillah, Hear my voice, wives of Lamech, attend to my words. I have not slain a man, that on his account I should bear the condemnation of death, or destroyed a young man, that on his account my posterity should be consumed. If 7 generations are suspended unto Cain, will there not be to Lamech his son 77? And Adam knew yet his wife, and she bare a son, and called his name Sheth, because, said she, The Lord hath given me another son instead of Habel, whom Cain slew. And to Sheth also was born a son, and he called his name Enosh. Then in his days the sons of men desisted or forbore from praying in the name of the Lord. Genesis 5. This is the book of the generations of Adam. In the day that the Lord God created man, in the resemblance of Elohim he made him, male and female he created them, and he blessed them, and called their name man, in the day that they were created. And Adam lived 130 years, and begat in his resemblance one who was like to himself, and he called his name Sheth. And the days of Adam after he had begotten Sheth were 800 years, and he begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Adam which he lived were 930 years, and he died. And Sheth lived 105 years, and begat Enosh. And Sheth lived after he had begotten Enosh 807 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Sheth were 912 years, and he died. And Enosh lived 90 years, and begat Kenan. And Enosh lived after he had begotten Kenan 815 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Enosh were 905 years, and he died. And Kenan lived 70 years, and begat Mahalalel. And Kenan lived after he had begotten Mahalalel 840 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Kenan were 910 years, and he died. And Mahalalel lived 65 years, and begat Jared. And Mahalalel lived after he had begotten Jared 830 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Mahalalel were 895 years, and he died. And Jared lived 162 years, and begat Hanoch. And Jared lived after he had begotten Hanoch 800 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Jared were 962 years, and he died. And Hanoch lived 65 years, and begat Methuselah. And Hanoch walked in the fear of the Lord, after he had begotten Methuselah, 300 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Hanoch were 365 years. And Hanoch walked in the fear of the Lord, and he was not, for the Lord had not made him to die. And Methuselah lived 187 years, and begat Lamech. And Methuselah lived after he had begotten Lamech 782 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years, and he died. And Lamech lived 182 years, and begat a son. And he called his name Noach, saying, This shall console us from the works and from the labor of our hands from the earth which the Lord hath cursed. And Lamech lived, after he had begotten Noach, 595 years, and begat sons and daughters. And all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. And Noach was a son of 500 years, and Noach begat Shem, Cham, and Japheth. Genesis 6. And it was when the sons of men had begun to multiply upon the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of the mighty saw the daughters of men that they were beautiful, and took to them wives of all whom they pleased. And the Lord said, This evil generation shall not stand before me forever, because they are flesh, and their works are evil. A term or length will I give them, 120 years, if they may be converted. Giants were in the earth in those days, and also when, after that the sons of the mighty had gone in unto the daughters of men, there were born from them giants who from of old were men of name. And the Lord saw that the wickedness of men had multiplied in the earth, and that every formation or image of the thought of his heart was only evil every day. And it repented the Lord in his word that he had made men upon the earth. And he said, in his word, that he would break their strength according to his pleasure. And the Lord said, Man whom I have made will I blot out from the face of the earth, from man to the beast, to the reptile, and to the fowls of heaven, because it repenteth me in my word that I have made them. But Noach found mercy before the Lord. These are the memorials of Noach. Noach was a man righteous and perfect in his generation, in the fear of the Lord walked Noach. And Noach begat 3 sons, Shem, Cham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupted before the Lord, and the earth was filled with violences. And the Lord saw the earth, and, behold, it was corrupt, because all flesh had corrupted, each one, his way upon the earth. And the Lord said to Noach, The end of all flesh cometh before me, because the earth is filled with violences from the face of their wicked works, and, behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make thee an ark with the wood of cedar, dwellings shalt thou make in the ark, and overlay it within and without with pitch. And thus shalt thou make it, 300 cubits shall be the length of the ark, 50 cubits its breadth, and 30 cubits its height. A light shalt thou make to the ark, and at a cubit shalt thou complete it above, and the door of the ark thou shalt place in its side. Lower dwellings, second and third, shalt thou make in it. And I, behold, I do bring the deluge of waters upon the earth to destroy all flesh, in which is the breath of life from under the heavens. Everything that is on the earth shall die. And I will establish my covenant with thee, and thou shalt enter into the ark, thou, and thy sons, and thy wife, and the wives of thy sons with thee. And of all that liveth of all flesh 2 and 2 of all that enter into the ark to abide with thee, male and female shall they be. Of fowl according to its kind, and of cattle according to her kind, and of every creeping thing of the earth after his kind, 2 of all shall enter with thee to abide. And thou, take with thee of all food which is eaten, and gather to be with thee, and it shall be for thee and for them to eat. And Noach did according to all which the Lord had commanded him, so did he. Genesis 7. And the Lord said to Noach, Enter thou and all the men of thy house into the ark, for thee have I seen righteous before me in this generation. Of all clean animals take thou 7 and 7, male and female, and of animals not clean, 2 and 2, male and female. Also of the fowls of heaven, 7 and 7, male and female, to continue the seed upon the face of all the earth. Because yet a time of 7 days and I will cause rain to descend upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and I will blot out every subsistence which I have made upon all the face of the earth. And Noach did according to all that the Lord had instructed him. And Noach was a son of 600 years, and the deluge of waters was upon the earth. And Noach entered, and his sons, and his wife, and the wives of his sons with him, into the ark from before the water of the deluge, of animals clean, and of animals not clean, and of birds, and of all which creepeth upon the earth, 2 and 2, they entered with Noach into the ark, male and female, as the Lord had instructed Noach. And it was at the time of 7 days, and the waters of the deluge were upon the earth. In the 600th year of the life of Noach, in the 2nd month, in the 17th day of the month, in that day were all the springs of the great abyss upbroken, and the windows of heaven opened, and the rain came down upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. In that very day entered Noach, and Shem, Cham, and Japheth, sons of Noach, and the wife of Noach, and the 3 wives of his sons with them, into the ark, they, and every animal after his kind, and all cattle after its kind, and every reptile which creepeth upon the earth after its kind, and every fowl after its kind, every bird, every one that flieth, and they entered with Noach into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, in which is the breath of life. And they, entering, male and female of all flesh, entered, as the Lord had commanded him, and the Lord protected them by his word. And there was a deluge 40 days upon the earth, and the waters increased, and took up the ark, and it was lifted up above the earth. And the waters prevailed and increased mightily upon the earth, and the ark went upon the faces of the waters. And the waters prevailed most mightily over the earth, and all the high hills were covered which were under all the heavens. 15 cubits upward did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered, and all flesh died which moved upon the earth, of fowl, and of cattle, and of the wild beast, and of every reptile which creepeth upon the earth, and every man. Everything in whose nostrils was the breath of the spirit of life, of all which was upon the dry ground, died. And every subsistence was blotted out that was upon the faces of the earth, from man to the beast, to the reptile, and to the fowl of heaven, it was blotted out from the earth, and Noach was left alone, and they who were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. Genesis 8. And the Lord remembered Noach, and every living thing, and all the cattle which were with him in the ark, and the Lord caused a wind to pass over the earth, and the waters rested, and the springs of the abyss were shut, and the windows of the heavens, and the rain from the heavens was restrained, and the waters turned from on the earth, going and returning, and the waters diminished from the end of 150 days. And the ark rested on the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Chaldee. And the waters went and diminished until the 10th month. In the 10th, on the 1st of the month, the heads of the mountains appeared. And it was at the end of 40 days, and Noach opened the windows of the ark which he had made. And he sent forth a raven, and going he went out, and returned until the waters were dried upon the earth. And he sent forth a dove from being with him, to see whether the waters were lightened or consumed from the surface of the earth. But the dove found no rest for the dividing of her foot, and she returned unto him into the ark, because the waters were upon all the earth. And he stretched forth his hand, and took her, and brought her to be with him in the ark. And he prolonged yet 7 days, and afterward added to send forth the dove from the ark. And the dove came to him at the time of evening, and, behold, a leaf of olive broken off was in her mouth, and Noach knew that the waters were lightened from upon the earth. And he prolonged yet other 7 days, and sent forth the dove, and she added not to return to be with him again. And it was in the 601st year, in the beginning of the 1st month, the waters were dried from off the earth, and Noach removed the covering of the ark, and looked, and, behold, the faces of the ground were dry. And in the 2nd month, in the 17th day of the month, the earth was fully dry. And the Lord spake with Noach, saying, Go forth from the ark, thou, and thy wife, and thy sons, and the wives of thy sons with thee. Every living thing which is with thee of all flesh, of fowl, and of cattle, and every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth, bring forth with thee, and they shall generate in the earth, and spread abroad and multiply upon the earth. And Noach went forth, and his sons, and his wife, and the wives of his sons with him, every animal, every reptile and bird, everything which moveth upon the earth after their kind, went forth from the ark. And Noach builded an altar before the Lord, and took of every clean beast and of every clean bird, and uplifted an offering upon the altar. And the Lord received with approval his oblation, and the Lord said in his word, I will not add to curse again the earth on account of the guilt of man, because the creations of the heart of man are evil from his infancy, and I will not add again to smite every living thing as I have done. Yet all the days of the earth, seed time and harvest, and cold and heat, and summer and winter, and day and night, shall not cease. Genesis 9. And the Lord blessed Noach and his sons, and said to them, Spread abroad, and multiply, and fill the earth. And the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the heavens, in all which creepeth upon the earth, and in all fish of the sea, into your hands shall they be delivered. Every moving thing that liveth, for you it shall be to eat, as the green herb I have given you the whole. But the flesh with its lifeblood you shall not eat. And also your blood of your lives will I require, from every beast will I require it, and from the hand of man. From the hand of the man who sheddeth the blood of his brother will I require the life of man. Whoso sheddeth the blood of man, by witnesses, upon the sentence of the judges, his blood shall be shed, because in the image of the Lord made he man. And you, spread abroad and multiply, bring forth in the earth and multiply therein. And the Lord spake to Noach, and to his sons with him, saying, And I, behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your children after you, and with every living thing which is with you, of fowl, of cattle, and of every beast of the field that is with you, of all going forth from the ark of every animal of the earth. And I will establish my covenant with you, and all flesh shall not again be consumed by the waters of a deluge, nor shall there be again a deluge to destroy the earth. And the Lord said, This is the sign of the covenant which I appoint give between my word, and between you, and between every living soul that is with you unto perpetual generations. I have set my bow in the cloud, and it shall be for a sign of the covenant between my word and between the earth. And it shall be that when clouding I becloud the earth, the bow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will remember the covenant which is between my word, and between you, and between every living soul of all flesh, and there shall not be again the waters of a deluge to destroy all flesh. And the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it, to remember the everlasting covenant between the word of the Lord and between every living soul of all flesh that is upon the earth. And the Lord said, This is the sign of the covenant which I have established between my word and between all flesh which is upon the earth. And the sons of Noach who went forth from the ark were Shem and Cham and Japheth, and Cham is the father of Canaan. These three are the sons of Noach, and from them was the whole earth overspread. And Noach began to be a man working on the earth, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine, and was drunk, and he was uncovered in the midst of his tent. And Cham the father of Canaan saw the nakedness of his father, and he showed to his two brethren without. And Shem and Japheth took a mantle, and laid it upon the shoulders of both, and went backward, and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were averted, and the nakedness of their father they saw not. And Noach awoke from his wine, and knew that which his youngest son had done unto him, and he said, Accursed be Canaan, a working servant shall he be to his brethren. And he said, Blessed be the Lord the God of Shem, and Canaan shall be servant unto them. The Lord shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall make his Shekinah to dwell in the tabernacles of Shem, and Canaan shall be servant unto them. And Noach lived after the deluge 350 years. And all the days of Noach were 950 years, and he died. Genesis 10. And these are the generations of the sons of Noach, Shem, Cham, and Japheth, and sons were born to them after the deluge. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, and Magog, and Madai, and Yavin, and Thuval, and Meshech, and Tyrus. And the sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz, and Rephath, and Thagarma. And the sons of Yavin, Elisha, and Tharshish, and Dodanum. From these were the isles Nogvath of the peoples divided in their lands, each according to his language, according to their families and their nations. And the sons of Cham, Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Kenan. And the sons of Cush, Saba, and Chavilah, and Sabbatha, and Raama, and Sapteka. And the sons of Raama, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begat Nimrod. He began to be a powerful man in the earth. He was a powerful man before the Lord, therefore it is said, like Nimrod the man of might before the Lord. And the head beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Bavel. From that land he went forth to Athura, and built Nineveh, and the city of Rehob, and Kalach, and Rezin, between Nineveh and Kalach, which was a great city. And Mizraim begat the Ludai, and Anamai, and Lehabah, and Naphchai, and Pathruzai, and Casluchi, from whom came forth the Pelishtai and Capuchi. And Kenan begat Zidon his firstborn, and Shith, and the Jepusai, and Amorai, and Girgashi, and Hivai, and Archai, and Antasai, and Arvadai, and Zemrai, and Chamathai, and afterwards the seed of the Canaanite were scattered abroad. And the frontier of Canaan was from Zidon, coming to Gerar and to Uzzah, coming unto Stem, and Amorah, and Admah, and Zeboim, unto Lasha. These are the sons of Cham, according to their progenies, to their languages, in their lands, in their peoples. And of Shem was born, also he is the father of all the sons of Eber, and the brother of Japheth the great, the sons of Shem, Elam, and Ashur, and Arphaxad, and Lud, and Aram. And the sons of Aram, Uz, and Chul, and Gether, and Mash. And Arphaxad begat Shalach, and Shalach begat Eber. And to Eber were born two sons, the name of the one was Peleg, because in his day the earth was divided. And the name of his brother was Joktan. And Joktan begat Almodad, and Shalaph, and Chatzarmabath, and Yarek, and Chadoram, and Uzziel, and Diklah, and Obal, and Avimel, and Sheba, and Ophir, and Chavilah, and Yabab. All these are the sons of Joktan. And their dwelling was from Asha, coming to Sephir, an eastern mountain. These are the sons of Shem, according to their progenies, according to their languages, in their lands, in their peoples. These are the progenies of the sons of Noach, by their generations, in their peoples, and by them were the peoples outspread in the earth after the deluge. Genesis 11. And all the earth was of one language and one speech. And it was in their migrations at the beginning, that they found a plain in the land of Babel, and dwelt there. And they said, a man to his companion, Come, let us cast bricks and bake them in the fire. And they had brick for stone, and bitumen for mortar. And they said, Come, let us build a city, and a tower, the head of it coming to the pinnacle of the heavens. And we will make to us a name, lest we be dispersed upon the face of all the earth. And the Lord was revealed to punish the work of the city and the tower which the sons of men had builded. And the Lord said, Behold, the people are one and the language one with all of them, and this is what they begin to do. And now nothing will be restrained from them of what they imagine to do. Come, we will be manifest, and will confuse their language there, that a man shall not hear the language of his companion. And the Lord dispersed them from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they were restrained from building the city. Therefore the name of it is called Confusion, because the Lord there confused the tongue of all the earth, and from thence the Lord dispersed them upon the face of all the earth. These are the generations of Shem. Shem was a son of 100 years, and he begat Arphaxad, 2 years after the deluge. And Shem lived after he had begotten Arphaxad 500 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Arphaxad lived 35 years, and begat Shalach. And Arphaxad lived after he had begotten Shalach 430 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Shalach lived 30 years, and begat Eber. And Shalach lived after he had begotten Eber 403 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Eber lived 34 years, and begat Peleg. And Eber lived after he had begotten Peleg 430 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Peleg lived 30 years, and begat Ru. And Peleg lived after he had begotten Ru 209 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Ru lived 32 years, and begat Serug. And Ru lived after he had begotten Serug 207 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Serug lived 30 years, and begat Nachor. And Serug lived after he had begotten Nachor 200 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Nachor lived 29 years, and begat Terach. And Nachor lived after he had begotten Terach 119 years, and begat sons and daughters. And Terach lived 70 years, and begat Abram, Nachor, and Haran. And these are the generations of Terach. Terach begat Abram, Nachor, and Haran begat Lot. And Haran died before Terach his father in the land of his nativity, in Ur of the Chaldee. And Abram and Nachor took to them wives, The name of the wife of Abram, Sarah, and the name of the wife of Nachor, Milcah, daughter of Haran the father of Milcah and the father of Yiscah. And Sarah was barren, she had no child. And Terach took Abram his son, and Lot the son of Haran, the son of his son, and Sarah his daughter-in-law, wife of Abram his son, and went forth with them from Murrah of the Chaldee to go to the land of Canaan. And they came to Charan, and dwelt there. And the days of Terach were 205 years, and Terach died in Charan. Genesis 12. And the Lord said to Abram, Go thou away from thy country, and from the house of thy father, to the land which I will show thee. And I will make thee to be a great people, and will bless thee, and magnify thy name, and thou shalt be blessed. And I will bless him who blesseth thee, and him who curseth thee I will curse, and through thee all the progenies of the earth shall be blessed. And Abram went away, according as the Lord had spoken to him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was a son of 75 years in his fourth going from Charan. And Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all the possessions which they possessed, and the souls whom they had made subject to the law in Charan, and went forth to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto the land of Canaan. And Abram traversed through the land unto the place of Shechem unto the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. And the Lord revealed himself unto Abram, and said, To thy sons will I give this land. And he builded there an altar before the Lord who had been revealed to him. And he ascended from thence to the mountain east of Bethel, and spread out his tabernacle, having Bethel on the west and Ai on the east, and he builded there an altar before the Lord, and prayed in the name of the Lord. And Abram migrated, going and migrating to the south. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Mizraim, to sojourn there, because the famine was strong in the land. And it was that as he drew nigh to enter Mizraim he said to Sarah his wife, Behold, now I know that thou art a woman beautiful in sight, and it will be that when the Mizraim see thee they will say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, and thee will they reserve. Say now, Thou art my sister, that it may be well with me through thee, and my life may be preserved through thy words. And it was that when Abram had entered into Mizraim, the Mizraim saw the woman that she was singularly fair, and the princes of Pharaoh saw her, and extolled her to Pharaoh, and the woman was taken to the house of Pharaoh. And Abram was well treated on account of her. And he had sheep, and oxen, and asses, and servants, and maidens, and camels. And the Lord brought upon Pharaoh great plagues, and upon the men of his house, for the affair of Sarah the wife of Abram. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done to me? Why didst thou not show me that she is thy wife? Why saidst thou, She is my sister, so that I would have taken her to me to wife? And now, behold thy wife, take, and go. And Pharaoh instructed the men concerning him, and they conducted him away, and his wife, and all that he had. Genesis 13. And Abram went up from Mizraim, he and his wife, and all that he had, and Lot with him, unto the south. And Abram was exceeding strong in cattle, in silver, and in gold, and he proceeded according to his encampments from the south, and unto Bethel, unto the place where he had spread his tabernacle at the first, between Bethel and Ai, to the place of the altar which he had there made at the first, and Abram prayed there in the name of the Lord. And Lot also, who went with Abram, had sheep and oxen and tents. And the land could not support them, that they might dwell together. And there was contention between the shepherds of the flock of Abram and the shepherds of the flock of Lot, and the Canaanite and the Pharisee then dwelt in the land. And Abram said to Lot, Let there not now be contention between me and thee, and between my shepherds and thy shepherds, for men, brethren, are we. Is not all the land before thee? Separate now from me, if thou to the north, I to the south, and if thou to the south, I to the north. And Lot lifted up his eyes, and saw the plain of Yardena that it was altogether a watered place, before the Lord had destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah, as the garden of the Lord, as the land of Mizraim coming unto Zoar. And Lot chose to him all the plain of Yardena, and Lot went forth before, and they were separated each man from his brother. Abram dwelt in the land of Canaan, and Lot dwelt in the cities of the plain, and extended unto Sodom. And the men of Sodom were wicked in their riches, and guilty in their bodies before the Lord greatly. And the Lord said to Abram, after Lot was separated from him, Lift up now thine eyes and see, from the place where thou art, thence to the north and to the south, and to the east and to the west, for all this land that thou seest, to thee will I give it, and to thy children forever. And I will place thy children numerous as the dust of the earth, so that as it is not possible for a man to number the dust of the earth, so also thy sons shall not be numbered. Arise, go through the land, in its length and in its breadth, for unto thee will I give it. And Abram spread his tent, and came and dwelt in the plain of Mamre which is near Hebron, and builded there an altar before the Lord. Genesis 14. And it was in the days of Amraphel, king of Babel, Arioch, king of Elazar, Kedar-laomer, king of Elam, and Thidal, king of peoples, they made war with Bera, king of Sodom, and with Bersha, king of Amorah, Shinab, king of Admah, Shemeber, king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar. All these were assembled at the plain of the field, which is now the place of the sea of salt. 12 years they had served Kedar-laomer, and in the 13th year they rebelled. And in the 14th year came Kedorlaomer, and the kings who were with him, and smote the giants who were in Ashtaroth-Karnaim, and the mighty who were in Shimta, and the terrible ones who were in Shaveh-Kiriathaim, and the Harai who were in the mountain of Seir, unto the plain of Paran which lieth upon the desert. And they turned, and came to the plain of the division of judgment, which is Rekam, and smote all the fields of the Amalekah, and also the Amoriah who dwelt in Engedi, and the king of Stem, and the king of Amoriah, and the king of Admah, and the king of Zeboim, and the king of Bela, which is Zoar, went forth and set the battle in array against them in the plain of the field, with Kedorlaomer king of Elam, and Thidal, king of peoples, and Amraphel, king of Babel, and Arioch, king of Elazar, 4 kings against 5. And the plain of the field had many pits, from which they raised asphalta, and the kings of Stem and Amorah fled, and they fell there, and they who remained fled to the mountain. And they took all the possession of Stem and Amorah, and all their food, and went. And they captured Lot and his substance, son of the brother of Abram, and went. And he had dwelt in Stem. And one came from those escaped, and showed to Abram the Ivorah, and he had remained in the plain of Moreh, the brother of Eshcol and brother of Aner, and they were Abram's men of covenant. And Abram heard that his brother had been captured, and he armed the young men born in his house, 318, and pursued unto Dan. And he divided against them by night, he and his servants, and smote them, and pursued them unto Hobah, which was northward of Damasek. And he recovered all the substance, and Lot also, the son of his brother, and his substance he recovered, the women also, and the people. And the king of Stem came out to meet him after returning from the smiting of Kedorlaomer and the kings who were with him, at the plain of Miphanah, which was the king's place of racing. And Melchizedek, king of Rushalem, brought forth bread and wine Kemar, and he was minister Meshemsh before Elilah, and he blessed him, and said, Blessed be Abram before Elilah, whose possession is heaven and earth, and blessed be Elilah most high, who hath delivered thine enemies into thine hand. And he gave him 1/10 of the whole. And the king of Stem said to Abram, Give me the souls, and the substance take thou. And Abram said to the king of Stem, I have uplifted my hands in prayer before the Lord God most high, whose possession is heaven and earth, if from a thread unto the sole of a sandal I take of all that is thine, and not that thou shouldst say, I have enriched Abram, except of the food for the young men, and the share of the men who went with me, Amr, Eshcol, and Mamre, these will receive their shares. Genesis 15. After these things the word Pithgama of the Lord came to Abram in prophecy, saying, Fear not, Abram, my word Memra shall be thy strength, and thy exceeding great reward. And Abram said, Lord God, what wilt thou give me, and I go without a child, and this son of business Barfargama who is in my house is the Damaseka Elisa. And Abram said, Behold, thou hast not given me a child, and, behold, the son of my house is my heir. And, lo, the word Pithgama of the Lord was with him, saying, This shall not be thy heir, but a son whom thou shalt beget will be thine heir. And he led him without, and said, Behold now the heavens, and number the stars, if thou art able to number them. And he said to him, So will be thy sons. And he believed in the word of the Lord, Memradayah, and he reckoned it to him unto justification. And he said to him, I am the Lord, who brought thee forth from Murrah of the Chaldee, to give thee this land to inherit it. And he said, Lord God, by what may I know that I shall inherit it? And he said to him, Bring me 3 calves, and 3 goats, and 3 rams, and a turtle dove, and the young of a pigeon. And he brought before him all these. And he divided them equally, and set the divisions a division against his fellow, but the birds he did not divide. And the fowl descended upon the divisions, and Abram drave them away. And it was sunset, and sleep fell upon Abram, and, lo, a horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Knowing thou shalt know that thy sons will be sojourners or aliens in a land not theirs, and they will serve among them, and they will afflict them 400 years. And the people whom they will serve I will judge, and go forth with much substance. And thou shalt be gathered to thy fathers in peace, and shalt be buried in good old age. And in the 4th age or generation they will return hither, because not yet complete is the guilt of the Amorah. And it was at the going away of the sun, and there was darkness. And behold a furnace that burned, and a flame of fire which passed between those divisions. In that day the Lord compacted with Abram a covenant, saying, To thy sons will I give this land, from the river of Mizraim unto the great river, the river of Pharat, the Shalmei, and the Kenizzai, and the Kadmoni, and the Hittite, and the Pharazai, and the Gibri, and the Amorai, and the Canaanite, and the Girgashai, and the Yebusai. Genesis 16. And Sarah wife of Abram had no child, and she had an handmaid, a Mizritha, and her name was Hagar. And Sarah said to Abram, Behold now, the Lord hath restrained me from childbearing, go in now to my handmaid, if, perhaps, I may have sons from her. And Abram received the word of Sarah. And Sarah wife of Abram took Hagar her handmaid, the Mizritha, at the end of 10 years of Abram's dwelling in the land of Canaan, and gave her to Abram her husband to be his wife, and he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived, and she saw that she had conceived, and her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarah said to Abram, I have a cause of judgment against thee. I have given my handmaid to thee, and she seeth that she hath conceived, and I am despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee. And Abram said to Sarah, Behold, thy handmaid is in thy hand, do to her as is pleasing in thine eyes. And Sarah afflicted her, and she fled from before her. And the angel of the Lord found her at the fountain of water in the wilderness, at the fountain in the way of Hagar. And he said, Hagar, handmaid of Sarah, whence comest thou, and whither art thou going? And she said, From before Sarah my mistress do I escape. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Return to thy mistress and be subject unto her hand. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Multiplying I will multiply thy sons, and they shall not be numbered for multitude. And the angel of the Lord said to her, Behold, thou hast conceived, and shalt give birth to a son, and thou shalt call his name Ishmael, because the Lord hath heard thy prayer. And he will be untamable by man, and he will be needy to everyone, and also all men will be needy to him, and before the face of all his brethren will he dwell. And she prayed in the name of the Lord who had spoken with her, and she said, Thou art Eloha, seeing all, for she said, I also have begun to see after that he hath been revealed to me. Therefore she called the name of the well at which appeared the angel of the covenant. Behold, it is between Rechem and Hagar. And Hagar bare to Abram a son, and Abram called the name of his son whom Hagar bare Ishmael. And Abram was son of 86 years when Hagar bare Ishmael unto Abram. Genesis 17. And Abram was son of 99 years, and the Lord was revealed to Abram, and said to him, I am El Shaddai. Serve before me, and be perfect, and I will set a covenant between my word and thee, and I will multiply thee exceedingly much. And Abram fell on his face, and the Lord spake with him, saying, Behold, I have dedicated my covenant with thee, and thou shalt be the father of many peoples, and thy name shall no more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, because the father of many peoples have I appointed given thee. And I will spread thee abroad very greatly, and I will appoint to thee that assemblies and kings who shall rule the peoples, from thee shall come forth. And I will establish my covenant between my word and thee, and thy sons after thee unto perpetual generations, to be unto thee a God, and to thy sons after thee. And I will give to thee and to thy sons after thee the land of thy habitation, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be unto them Eloah. And the Lord said to Abraham, And thou my covenant shalt keep, thou and thy sons after thee in their generations. This is my covenant which you shall keep between my word and you and thy sons after thee, to circumcise every male that is among you. And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be for the sign of the covenant between my word and you. And the son of 8 days shall be circumcised among you, every male in your generations, born in the house, or bought with money, of every son of the peoples, who is not of thy sons, circumcising you shall circumcise. The one born in the house, and him bought with money, and it shall be my covenant in your flesh for a covenant forever. And the male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that man shall perish from the people because he hath made void my covenant. And the Lord said to Abraham, The name of Sarah thy wife shall not be called Sarah, for Sarah shall be her name, and I will bless her, and I will also give thee a son from her, and I will bless her, and assemblies and kings which have dominion over peoples from her shall be. And Abraham fell upon his face and rejoiced, and said in his heart, Will the son of 100 years have a child, and Sarah the daughter of 90 years bring forth? And Abraham said before the Lord, O that Ishmael may be established before thee. And the Lord said, In verity Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son, and thou shalt call his name Isaac, and I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant to his sons after him. And concerning Ishmael I have accepted thy prayer. Behold, I have blessed him, and I will spread him abroad very greatly. 12 princes will he beget, and I will set him as a great people. But my covenant I will establish with Isaac, whom Sarah shall bear to thee, at this time, in the year following. And when he had ended to speak with him, the glory of the Lord ascended up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and everyone born in his house, and everyone bought with his money, every male, the men of the house of Abraham, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in that very same day when the Lord had spoken with him. And Abraham was son of 99 years, when he circumcised the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was son of 13 years, when the flesh of his foreskin was circumcised. In that same day Abraham was circumcised, and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house, whether born in his house, or bought with money from the sons of the Gentiles, were circumcised with him. Genesis 18. And the Lord was revealed to him in the vale of Mamre, and he sat in the door of the tent while the day was hot. And he lifted up his eyes and looked, and, behold, 3 men stood towards him, and he saw, and ran from the door of the tent to meet them, and worshipped upon the earth. And he said, Lord, if now I have found favor in thine eyes, pass not, I pray, from thy servant. Accept now a little water, and wash your feet, and recline under the tree, and take a mouthful of bread, and strengthen your hearts, afterwards you shall pass on, because for this you have come over unto your servant. And he said, so do as thou hast spoken. And Abraham hastened to the tent to Sarah, and said, Make haste with 3 seahs of the flour of meal, mix and make cakes. And to the herd ran Abraham, and took a calf, tender and good, and gave to a young man, and he hastened to dress him. And he took butter and milk, and the calf which he had prepared, and set before them, and he waited upon them under the tree, and they ate. And he said to him, Where is Sarah thy wife? And he said, Behold, in the tent. And he said, Returning I will return to thee, according to the time that you shall revive, and, behold, Sarah thy wife shall have a son. And Sarah heard in the door of the tent, and it was behind him. And Abraham and Sarah were old and advanced in days, and with Sarah had ceased to be the way of women. And Sarah laughed within herself, saying, After that I am old shall I have a child, and my Lord being also old? And the Lord said to Abraham, Wherefore laughs Sarah, saying, Can it be in truth that I shall bring forth, and I being old? What word is hidden from before the Lord? At the time I will return to thee, according to the time that you shall revive, and Sarah shall have a son. And Sarah denied, saying, I laughed not, for she was afraid. And he said, No, but thou didst laugh. And the men arose thence, and looked towards the face of Sodom, and Abraham went with them to accompany them. And the Lord said, Shall I conceal from Abraham what I am doing? And Abraham shall be indeed a people many and strong, and in him shall all the peoples of the earth be blessed, because it is manifest before me that he will instruct his children, and the men of his house after him, to keep the ways which are right before the Lord, to do righteousness and judgment, that the Lord may bring upon Abraham that which he hath spoken concerning him. And the Lord said, The cry of Sodom and Amorrah is heard before me because it is great, and the guilt of them is very mighty. I will now see, and will judge, whether they do according to the report of them which hath ascended before me. I will deal with them thoroughly unless they convert, but if they convert, I will not punish. And the men turned away from thence, and went toward Sodom. And Abraham yet ministered in prayer before the Lord. And Abraham approached, and said, Wilt thou, in anger, destroy the righteous with the guilty? If perhaps there be 50 righteous within the city, wilt thou in anger destroy and not forgive the place for the 50 righteous who are within it? More true are thy judgments than that thou shouldst do a thing like that, to destroy the just with the guilty, and that the just should be as the guilty. Thy judgments are true. Can the judge of all the earth but do justice? And the Lord said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous in the midst of the city, I will spare all the place for their sake. And Abraham answered and said, Behold, I have done a great thing, to speak before the Lord, and I dust and ashes. Perhaps of the 50 righteous there may be wanting 5, shall all the city perish through 5? And he said, I will not destroy, if I find there 40 and 5. And he added yet to speak before him, and said, Perhaps 40 may be found there. And he said, I will not make the end on account of the 40. And he said, Let not the anger of the Lord now kindle, and I will speak. Perhaps 30 shall be found there. And he said, I will not make the end if I find there 30. And he said, Behold, I have done a great thing to speak before the Lord, perhaps 20 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy for the sake of 20. And he said, Let not now the anger of the Lord kindle, and I will speak only this time, perhaps 10 may be found there. And he said, I will not destroy for the sake of the 10. And the glory of the Lord ascended when he had ceased to speak with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. Genesis 19. And 2 angels entered into Sodom in the evening, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot saw, and arose to present himself before them, and he bowed with his face to the earth. And he said, I pray my lord's Rabboni to turn aside unto the house of your servant and lodge, and wash your feet, and rising early you shall go on your way. And they said, Not so, but in the wide place will we lodge. And he was greatly in earnest with them, and they turned aside with him, and entered into his house, and he made them a supper, and dressed unleavened cakes for them, and they ate. As yet they had not slept, and the men of the city, the men of Sodom, gathered against the house, from the youth unto the old man, all the people from the extremes, and they cried to Lot, and said to him, Where are the men who came to thee tonight? Bring them forth to us, and we will know them. And Lot went out to them to the gate, and the door he shut after him. And he said, I pray you, my brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now, I have 2 daughters, who have not known man. I would bring them to you, and you should do to them what pleases in your eyes. Only to these men do nothing, because they have entered under the shadow of my dwelling. And they said, Go in, however. And they said, One came to sojourn, and, behold, he judgeth judgment. Now will we do worse to thee than to them. And they prevailed against the men, against Lot, greatly, and came nigh to shatter the door. And the men put forth their hands, and brought in Lot to be with them in the house, and shut the door. And the men who were at the gate of the house they smote with blindness, from the little to the great, and they were weary to find the gate. And the men said to Lot, Whomsoever thou hast yet here, thy son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and all that thou hast in the city, lead out from the place, for we will destroy this place, because their cry is great before the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went forth, and spake with his sons-in-law, the takers of his daughters, and said, Arise, come forth from this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. And he was as a trifler in the eyes of his sons-in-law. And it was as the morning rose that the angels were urgent upon Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters who are found faithful with thee, lest thou be smitten with the punishment of the city. But he delayed, and the men laid hold of his hands, and of the hand of his wife, and of the hand of his 2 daughters, for the Lord had mercy upon him, and they brought him forth, and set him without the city. And it was when he had brought them without, he said, Be merciful on thy life, look not behind thee, and stand not in all the plain, escape to the mountain for deliverance, lest thou perish. And Lot said to them, Be entreated, O Lord, behold now, thy servant hath found mercy before thee, and thou hast magnified thy goodness which thou hast shown me in saving my life, and I cannot take refuge in the mountain, lest evil befall me, and I die. Behold now, this city is nigh, to flee there, and it is but small, let me now escape thither. Is it not small? And my life shall be sustained. And he said to him, Behold, I have accepted thee in this thing also, in that I will not overthrow the city for which thou hast prayed. Haste, escape thither, for I cannot do anything until thou be come thither. Therefore he called the name of the city Zoar. The sun had come forth upon the earth, and Lot entered Zoar. And the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah sulfur and fire from before the Lord from the heavens, and destroyed those cities and all the plain, and all the dwellers in the cities and the herbage of the earth. And his wife looked behind her, and she became a statue of salt. And Abraham ascended in the morning to the place where he had ministered in prayer before the Lord, and he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah, and upon all the place of the plain land, and saw, and, behold, the smoke of the land went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it was when the Lord destroyed the cities of the plain, that the Lord remembered Abraham, and sent Lot from the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelt. And Lot went up from Zoar, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cavern, he and his 2 daughters. And the elder said to the younger, Our father is aged, and there is no man in the earth to go in unto us according to the way of all the earth. Come, we will pour father wine, and will lie with him, and raise up sons from our father. And they poured their father wine in that night, and the elder went in and lay with her father, and he knew not, in her lying down nor in her rising up. And it was in the day which followed that the elder said to the younger, Behold, I lay yesterday with the father, let us give wine also in the night, and go thou in, lie with him, and we will raise up sons from our father. And they gave that night also wine to their father, and the younger rose and lay with him, and he knew not, in her lying down nor in her rising up. And the 2 daughters of Lot conceived from their father, and the elder brought forth a son, and called his name Moab, he is the father of the Moab unto this day. And the younger also brought forth a son, and she called his name Barami, he is the father of the Benjamin unto this day. Genesis 20. And Abraham migrated from thence to the southern land, and dwelt between Rechalm and Hagrah, and he sojourned in Gerar. And Abraham said of Sarah his wife, She is my sister. And Abimelech, king of Gerar, sent and took Sarah. And the word came from the presence of the Lord to Abimelech in a dream of the night, and said to him, Behold, thou diest, on account of the woman whom thou hast taken, and she a man's wife. But Abimelech had not come nigh her. And he said, Lord, wilt thou also kill the innocent people? Did he not say to me, She is my sister? And she also said, He is my brother. In the rectitude of my heart, and the cleanness of my hands, have I done this. And the Lord said to him in a dream, It is also manifest to me that in the integrity of thy heart thou hast done this, and I have also restrained thee from sinning before me, therefore I have not permitted thee to approach to her. And now return the man's wife, for he is a prophet, and he will pray for thee, and thou shalt live. But if thou wilt not return her, know that dying thou shalt die, thou, and all who are thine. And Abimelech rose in the morning, and called all his servants, and spake all these words before them, and the men feared greatly. And Abimelech called Abraham, and said to him, What hast thou done to us, and in what have I sinned against thee, that thou shouldst have brought upon me and upon my kingdom a great sin? Works which are not worthy to be done hast thou done with me. And Abimelech said to Abraham, What sawest thou, that thou didst this thing? And Abraham spake, Because I said, Perhaps the fear of the Lord is not in this place, and they will kill me on account of my wife. Nevertheless, in truth she is my sister, the daughter of my father, but not the daughter of my mother, and she became my wife. And it was, when the people heard after the works of their hands, the Lord did bring me near to the fear of himself, from among the house of my father. And I said to her, This is thy favor which thou canst do for me, in every place through which we pass, say of me, He is my brother. And Abimelech took sheep, and oxen, and servants, and handmaidens, and gave to Abraham, and returned to him Sarah his wife. And Abimelech said, Behold, my land is before thee, where it is pleasant in thine eyes, dwell. And to Sarah he said, Behold, I have given 1,000 selene of silver to thy brother, behold, that is to thee a veil of honor, for my having sent to take thee, and to see thee, and all that is with thee, and concerning all whatever thou hast spoken thou art reproved. And Abraham prayed before the Lord, and the Lord healed Abimelech, and his wife, and his handmaids, and they were revived, for the Lord had shut all the wombs of the house of Abimelech, on account of Sarah, the wife of Abraham. Genesis 21. And the Lord remembered Sarah as he had said, and the Lord did unto Sarah according as he had spoken. And Sarah conceived and bare unto Abraham a son in his old age, in the time of which the Lord had told him. And Abraham called the name of his son who was born to him, whom Sarah bare to him, Isaac. And Abraham circumcised Isaac his son when the son of 8 days, as the Lord had commanded him. And Abraham was the son of 100 years when Isaac his son was born to him. And Sarah said, The Lord hath made me to have gladness, every one who heareth will give me joy. And she said, Faithful is he who spake unto Abraham, and certified that Sarah should suckle children, for she hath borne a son in his old age. And the child grew, and was weaned, and Abraham made a great feast in the day when Isaac was weaned. And Sarah observed the son of Hagar the Mizrathah, whom she bare to Abraham, deriding. And she said, Cast out this handmaid and her son, for the son of the handmaid shall not inherit with my son, with Isaac. And the word was evil exceedingly in the eyes of Abraham, on account of his son. And the Lord said to Abraham, Let it not be evil in thine eyes concerning the youth and concerning thine handmaid. All that Sarah saith to thee receive from her, because in Isaac shall thy sons be called to thee. And also the son of the handmaid will I set for a people, because he is thy son. And Abraham rose up in the morning, and took bread and a skin of water, and gave to Hagar, setting upon her shoulder, and the youth, and dismissed her. And she went, and wandered in the desert of the well of Shaveh Bered Shaveh. And the water was finished from the skin, and she laid the youth under one of the trees, and she went and sat over against, as far off as a bow flight, for she said, I cannot see the death of the child. And she sat over against, and lifted up her voice and wept. And the voice of the youth was heard before the Lord, and the angel of the Lord called to Hagar from the heavens, and said to her, What to thee, Hagar? Fear not, for the voice of the youth is heard before the Lord in the place where he is. Arise, take up the youth and strengthen thine hand in him, because for a great people have I appointed him. And the Lord opened her eyes, and she saw the well of waters, and went and filled the skin with water, and gave the youth to drink. And the word of the Lord was the helper of the youth, and he grew and dwelt in the wilderness, and became a master of a bow. And he dwelt in the wilderness of Paran, and his mother took for him a wife from the land of Mizraim. And it was in that time that Abimelech and Phicol, chief of his host, spake to Abraham, saying, The word of the Lord is thy helper in everything thou doest, and now swear to me here, by the word of the Lord, that thou wilt not be false with me, nor with my son, nor with my son's son, and that according to the good which I have done to thee thou wilt do with me and with the land in which thou art a sojourner. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Abimelech, on account of the well of waters which the servants of Abimelech had taken by force. And Abimelech said, I knew not if this thing had been done, and thou also hadst not shown me, nor have I heard, but this day. And Abraham took sheep and oxen, and gave to Abimelech, and they struck both of them a covenant. And Abraham made 7 lambs stand apart, and Abimelech said to Abraham, What are these 7 lambs which thou hast made to stand apart? And he said, That thou mayest take the 7 lambs from my hand, to testify for me that I have digged that well. Therefore he called that place Beersheba, because there they sware together. And they struck a covenant at Beersheba. And Abimelech and Phicol, the chief of his host, arose, and returned to the land of the Philistine. And he planted a tree in Beersheba, and prayed there in the name of the Lord, the Most High God. And Abraham sojourned in the land of the Philistine many days. Genesis 22. And it was after these things that the Lord tempted Abraham, and he said to him, Abraham. And he said, Behold, I am. And he said, Take now thy son, thy only, whom thou lovest, Isaac, and go into the land of worship, and offer him before me there, a burnt offering, upon one of the mountains which I will tell thee. And Abraham arose in the morning, and saddled his ass, and took 2 of his young men with him, and Isaac his son, and clave the wood for the burnt offering, and arose and went to the place of which the Lord had spoken to him. And in the 3rd day Abraham lifted up his eyes, and saw the place from afar. And Abraham said to his young men, Wait you here with the ass, and I and the young man will ascend yonder and worship, and return to you. And Abraham took the wood of the burnt offering, and laid on Isaac his son, and he took in his hand the fire and the knife, and they went both of them as one. And Isaac spake to Abraham his father, and said, Father. And he said, Behold, I am, my son. And he said, Behold the fire and the wood, but where is the lamb for the burnt offering? And Abraham said, The lamb for the burnt offering is revealed before the Lord, my son. And they went, both of them, as one. And they came to the place of which the Lord had told him. And Abraham builded there the altar, and set in order the woods, and bound Isaac his son, and laid him upon the altar above the woods. And Abraham stretched forth his hand and took the knife to cut off his son. And the angel of the Lord called to him from the heavens, and said, Abraham, Abraham. And he said, Behold, I am. And he said to him, Stretch not out thy hand upon the youth, neither do anything to him, for now I know that thou fearest the Lord, and that thou hast not spared thy only son for me. And Abraham lifted up his eyes after these words, and saw, and behold, one ram, holden in the bush by his horns. And Abraham went and took the ram, and offered him for a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham worshipped and prayed there in that place, and said before the Lord, Here shall generations worship, wherefore it shall be paid in that day, in this mountain Abraham worshipped before the Lord. And the angel of the Lord called to Abraham the second time from the heavens, and said, By my word have I sworn, saith the Lord, because thou hast done this thing, and hast not spared thy only son, therefore, blessing I will bless thee, and multiplying I will multiply thy sons as the stars of heaven and as the sand which is on the seashore, and thy sons shall inherit the cities of their enemies. And all the peoples of the earth shall be blessed through thy son, forasmuch as thou hast received my word. And Abraham returned to his young men, and they arose and went together unto Beersheba, and Abraham dwelt in Beersheba. And it was after these things it was shown to Abraham, saying, Behold, Milcah, also, hath borne sons to Nachor, thy brother, Uz his firstborn, and Buz his brother, and Kemuel the father of Haram, and Kest, and Chazu, and Fildesh, and Yedlaph, and Betuel. And Betuel begat Rebekah. These 8 bare Milcah to Nahor, brother of Abraham. And his concubine, whose name was Reumah, she also bare Tabach, and Gacham, and Tashash, and Maacah. Genesis 23. And the life of Sarah was 127 years, the years of the life of Sarah. And Sarah died in Kiriath-arba, which is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And Abraham came to mourn for Sarah, and to lament her. And Abraham rose up from the presence of his dead, and spake with the sons of Hittah, saying, I am a guest and a sojourner with you, give me the possession of a sepulchre with you, that I may bury my dead from before me. And the sons of Hittah answered Abraham, saying to him, Receive from us Ribbenah, a prince before the Lord art thou among us, in the best of our sepulchres bury thy dead. No man of us will refuse his sepulchre to thee for the burial of thy dead. And Abraham rose and bowed to the people of the land, the sons of Hittah. And he spake with them, saying, If you are willing in your minds that I should bury my dead from before me, receive from me, and request for me of Ephron bar Zochar that he will give me the double cavern, which is in the side of his field, for the full amount shellam of silver he shall give it to me among you for the possession of a sepulchre. But Ephron was sitting in the midst of the sons of Hittah, and Ephron the Hittite answered Abraham before the sons of Hittah, of all entering the gate of the city, saying, No, my lord, receive of me, I will present to thee the field and the cavern which is in it, to thee will I present it, in sight of the sons of my people will I present it to thee. Bury thy dead. And Abraham bowed before the people of the land. And he spake with Ephron before the people of the land, saying, Nevertheless, if thou wilt do me a grace, receive from me, I will give money for the field, take of me, and I will bury my dead there. And Ephron answered Abraham, saying to him, My lord, receive of me, the land is worth 400 silene of silver, between me and thee what is it? Bury thy dead. And Abraham agreed with Ephron, and Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver of which be it spoken before the sons of Hittah, 400 silene of silver, which is received in merchandise in every city. And Ephron confirmed the field in which is the double cavern which is before Mamre, the field, and the cavern that is therein, and all the trees which were in the field, in all its boundaries round about, to Abraham, for a purchase, in the sight of the sons of Hittah, of all entering the gate of the city. And after this Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the double cavern of the field which is before Mamre, that is Hebron, in the land of Canaan. And the field and the cavern which is in it were confirmed to Abraham for the possession of a sepulchre from the sons of Hittah. Genesis 24. And Abraham was old, and advanced in days, and the Lord had blessed Abraham in all things. And Abraham said to his servant, the elder of his house, who had authority over all which was his, Put now thy hand under my thigh, and I will adjure thee by the word of the Lord, the God of heaven and the God of the earth, that thou wilt not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanite among whom I dwell. But to my country and to my kindred thou wilt go, and take a wife for my son Isaac. And the servant said to him, Perhaps the woman will not be willing to come after me to this land, returning am I to return thy son to the land from which thou hast gone forth? And Abraham said to him, Take care that thou return not my son thither. The Lord, the God of heaven, who took me from the house of my father and from the land of my birth, and who spake to me, and sware to me, saying, I will give thee this land, will send his angel before thee, and thou wilt take a wife for my son from thence. And if the woman be not willing to come after thee, thou shalt be absolved from this my oath, only cause not my son to return thither. And the servant put his hand under the thigh of Abraham his master, and sware to him concerning that matter. And the servant took 10 camels of the camels of his lord and went. And all the goods of his master were in his hand. And he arose and went to Aram, which is upon Phrath, the river, to the city of Nachor. And he made the camels rest without the city at a well of waters in the evening time, at the time when they came forth to fill. And he said, Lord God of my master Abraham, let it, I pray, be opportune with me this day, and deal thou graciously with my master Abraham. Behold, I stand by the fountain of waters, and the daughters of the men of the city will come forth to draw water. Let the maiden to whom I shall say, reach thy water pot, I pray, that I may drink, and she say, drink, and I will also give thy camels drink, be she whom thou hast prepared for thy servant, for Isaac, and in this I shall know that thou hast dealt graciously with my master. And it was while he had not ceased to speak that, behold, Rebekah came forth, she who was born to Bethuel the son of Milcah, wife of Nachor, brother of Abraham, and her pitcher upon her shoulder. And the maiden was very fair to behold, a virgin, and man had not known her, and she descended to the fountain, and filled her pitcher, and came up. And the servant hasted to her presence, and said, Let me taste, I pray, a little water from thy pitcher. And she said, Drink, Ribbonie, and she made haste, and held her pitcher upon her hand, and gave him to drink. And when she had ended giving him drink, she said, For thy camels also I will draw, until they shall have enough to drink. And she hastened and poured out her pitcher into the place of watering, and ran again to the well to fill, and she filled for all his camels. And the man wondered at her, gazing silently, to know whether the Lord had prospered his way or not. And it was when the camels had drunk enough, the man took a ring kadasha of gold weighing a shekel, and 2 bracelets sharon for the hand weighing 10 selim of gold. And he said, Whose daughter art thou? Tell me, I pray, whether there be room in thy father's house sufficient for us to lodge? And she said to him, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Milcah, whom she bare to Nachor. And she said to him, There is much straw and provender with us, also room enough to lodge. And the man kneeled, and worshipped before the Lord, and said, Blessed be the Lord the God of my master Abraham, who hath not withheld his grace and his truth from my master, and me hath the Lord led in a right way to the house of my master's brother. And the maiden ran and showed these things to her mother's house. And Rebekah had a brother whose name was Laban, and Laban ran to the man without at the fountain. And it was when he saw the ring and the bracelets upon the hands of his sister, and heard the words of Rebekah his sister, saying, As this spake the man with me, that he came to the man, and, behold, he stood by the camels at the fountain, and he said, Enter, blessed of the Lord, why standest thou without? And I have a prepared house and a proper place for the camels. And the man entered the house, and he loosed the camels, and gave straw and provender for the camels, and water to wash his feet, and the feet of the man who were with him. And they set before him to eat. And he said, I will not eat until I have spoken my words. And he said, Speak. And he said, I am a servant of Abraham, and the Lord hath blessed my master much, and increased, and hath given to him sheep and oxen, silver and gold, servants and handmaidens, camels and asses. And Sarah the wife of my master bare a son to my master after she was old, and he hath given to him all that he hath. And my master adjured me, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife for my son from the daughters of Canaan in whose land I dwell, but thou shalt go to my father's house, and to my kindred, and take a wife for my son. And I said to my master, Perhaps the woman will not come after me. And he said to me, The Lord before whom I worship will send his angel with thee, and will prosper thy way, and thou shalt take a wife for my son from my kindred and from my father's house. Then shalt thou be absolved from my oath when thou hast gone to my kindred, and if they will not give unto thee, thou shalt be absolved from my oath. And I came this day to the fountain, and I said, Lord God of my master Abraham, if now it is pleasing before thee to prosper the way in which I go, behold, I stand at the fountain of waters, and a damsel may come forth to fill, and I will say to her, Give me to drink, I entreat, a little water from thy pitcher, and she shall say to me, Both for thee and thy camels also I will fill, let her be the wife whom the Lord hath ordained for my master's son. And I had not left speaking in my heart, when, behold, Rebekah came forth, with her pitcher upon her shoulder, and went down to the fountain and filled. And I said to her, Let me now drink. And she hastened and let down her pitcher, and said, Drink, and I will give thy camels also drink. And I drank, and the camels also she watered. And I asked her and said, Whose daughter art thou? And she said, I am the daughter of Bethuel, the son of Nachor, whom Milcah bare to him. And I set an ornament on her face, and bracelets upon her hand, and bowed down and worshipped before the Lord, and blessed the Lord God of my master Abraham who had led me in a true way, to take the daughter of my master's brother for his son. And now, if you will act with goodness and truth with my master, show me, and if not, I will turn to the right or to the left. And Laban answered, and Bethuel, and said, From before the Lord the word hath come forth, we have no power to say to thee either evil or good. Behold, Rebekah is before thee, take her and go, and let her be the wife of thy master's son, as the Lord hath spoken. And it was, When the servant of Abraham heard these words, he worshipped on the earth before the Lord. And the servant brought out vessels of silver and vessels of gold and vestments, and gave to Rebekah, and presents gave he to her brother and to her mother. And they ate and drank, he and the men who were with him, and they lodged and arose in the morning. And he said, Send me to my master. And her brother said, and her mother, Let the maiden abide with us a season of time, or 10 months, after that she shall go. And he said to them, Keep me not back, the Lord will direct my way, and I will proceed to my master. And they said, We will call the maiden, and hear what she will say. And they called Rebekah, and said to her, Wilt thou go with this man? And she said, I will go. And they dismissed Rebekah their sister, and her nurse, and the servant of Abraham, and his men. And they blessed Rebekah, and said to her, Thou art our sister, be thou multiplied unto thousands and myriads, and may thy children inherit the cities of those who hate them. And Rebekah arose, and her maidens, and they rode upon camels, and went after the man. And the servant took Rebekah and went. And Isaac ascended, and coming from the well over which the angel of life Malach-Gayama, the eternal angel, had appeared, and he dwelt in the land of the south. And Isaac went forth to pray in the field, at the presence of the evening, and he lifted up his eyes, and looked, and, behold, the camels came. And Rebekah lifted up her eyes, and saw Isaac, and she bowed herself on the camel. And she said to the servant, Who is the man who is walking in the field to meet us? And the servant said, He is my master. And she took a mantle and covered herself. And the servant recounted to Isaac all the things which he had done. And Isaac brought her to the tabernacle, and he saw, and, behold, her works were right as the works of Sarah his mother. And he took Rebekah, and she became his wife, and he loved her. And Isaac was comforted after his mother. Genesis 25. And Abraham added, and took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and she bare to him Zimran, and Yokshan, and Madon, and Midian, and Yeshbach, and Shuvach. And Yokshan begat Sheba, and Dedan, and the sons of Dedan have been in camps and tabernacles and islands. And the sons of Midian, Ephah, and Epher, and Hanok, and Abida, and Eldaah, all these the sons of Keturah. And Abraham gave all that he had unto Isaac. But to the sons of the concubine of Abraham gave Abraham portions, and sent them from his son Isaac, while he yet lived, eastward in the land of the sunrise. And these are the days of the years of the life of Abraham that he lived, 175 years. And Abraham expired, and died in a good old age, aged, and full of days, and he was gathered unto his people. And Isaac and Ishmael his sons buried him in the twofold cave in the field of Ephron Barzochar, the Hittite, which is before Mamre, the field that Abraham bought from the sons of Hittite. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. And it was after the death of Abraham that the Lord blessed Isaac his son, and Isaac dwelt at the well over which the eternal angel had appeared. And these are the generations of Ishmael bar Abraham, whom Hagar the Mizraithah, the handmaid of Sarah, bare to Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names in their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebaioth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadad, and Tema, Yetur, Nephish, and Kedemah. These are the sons of Ishmael, and these are their names in their villages and their towns, 12 chiefs of their peoples. And these are the years of the life of Ishmael, 137 years. And he expired and died, and was gathered to his people. And they have dwelt from Havilah unto Hagra, which looketh toward Mizraim, reaching unto Athor. In the presence of all his brethren he dwelt. And these are the generations of Isaac bar Abraham. Abraham begat Isaac, and Isaac was a son of 40 years when he took Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel the Aramite of Paddan Aram, the sister of Laban the Aramite, to be his wife. And Isaac prayed before the Lord for his wife, because she was barren, and the Lord hearkened to his prayer, and Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled in her womb, and she said, If thus, why have I conceived? And she went to seek instruction before the Lord, and the Lord said to her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 kingdoms from thy womb shall be divided, and 1 kingdom shall be stronger than the other kingdom, and the greater shall be subject to the less. And her days were fulfilled to give birth. And, behold, twins were in her womb. And the first came forth red, all of him as a garment covering of hair, and they called his name Esau. And afterwards came forth his brother, and his hand grasped the heel of Esau, and they called his name Jacob. And Isaac was 60 years old when he begat them. And the youths grew, and Esau was a man of idleness, a man going out into the field, and Jacob was a man of peace, a minister of the house of instruction. And Isaac loved Esau, because he ate of his hunting, and Rebekah loved Jacob. And Jacob dressed pottage, and Esau came from the field, and he was faint. And Esau said to Jacob, Let me taste now of that red. For I am faint. Therefore called his name Edom. And Jacob said, Sell this day thy birthright to me. And Esau said, Behold, I am going to die, and what is this birthright to me? And Jacob said, Swear to me today, and he sware to him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave to Esau bread and pottage of lentiles. And he ate and drank, and arose, and went, and Esau despised the birthright. Genesis 26. And there was a famine in the land, besides the former famine that was in the days of Abraham, and Isaac went to Abimelech, king of the Philistines, to Gerar. And the Lord appeared to him and said, Go not down into Mizraim, remain in the land as I have told thee, dwell in this land, and my word shall be to thee for a helper, and I will bless thee. For to thee and to thy son will I give all these lands, and I will confirm the oath that I have sworn to Abraham thy father, and I will multiply thy son as the stars of heaven, and will give thy son all these lands, and through thy son shall all the peoples of the earth be blessed, because Abraham obeyed my word, and kept the keeping of my word, my commandments, my covenant, and my law. And Isaac dwelt at Gerar, and the men of the place asked respecting his wife. And he said, She is my sister, for he feared to say, My wife, lest the men of the place should kill him on account of Rebekah, for she was of beautiful aspect. And it was when he had been there many days that Abimelech the king of the Philistines looked from a window, and, behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah his wife. And Abimelech called Isaac and said, Nevertheless, behold, she is thy wife, why then hast thou said, She is my sister? And Isaac said to him, Because I said, Lest I be killed on account of her. And Abimelech said, What is this that thou hast done to us? It might have been that some one of the people had lain with thy wife, and thou wouldst have brought upon us the guilt. And Abimelech commanded all the people saying, Whoever endureth this man shall surely be put to death. And Isaac sowed in the land, and found in that year 100-fold on that which he had expended, or estimated, and the Lord blessed him, and the man increased, and went on multiplying and increasing, until he had increased greatly. And he had flocks of sheep, and herds of cattle, and many servants, and the Philistines were envious of him. And all the wells that the servants of his father had digged in the days of Abraham the Philistines stopped up, and filled with dust. And Abimelech said to Isaac, Go from us, for thou art much stronger than we. And Isaac went thence, and sojourned in the vale of Gerar, and dwelt there. And Isaac returned, and digged the well of water which they had digged in the days of Abraham his father, and which the Philistine had stopped after the death of Abraham, and he called their names after the names by which his father had called them. And the servants of Isaac digged in the valley, and found there a well of flowing waters. And the shepherds of Gerar strove with the shepherds of Isaac, saying, The water is ours, and he called the name of the well Contention, because they had contended with him. And they digged another well, and they strove also on account of it, and he called the name of it Hatred. And he went up from thence, and digged another well, and for that they strove not, and he called the name of it Spaciousness. For he said, Because now hath the Lord enlarged us, and we shall spread abroad in the land. And he went up from thence to Beersheba, and the Lord appeared to him in the night, and said, I am the God of Abraham thy father, fear not, for in thy help is my word, and I will bless thee, and will multiply thy sons for the sake of Abraham my servant. And he builded there an altar, and prayed in the name of the Lord. And he spread there his tabernacle, and the servants of Isaac digged there a well. And Abimelech came to him from Gerar, and a company of his friends, and Phicol the chief of his host. And Isaac said to him, Why have you come to me, when you have hated me, and sent me from you? And they said, Seeing we have seen that the word of the Lord is for thy help, and we have said, Let the oath which was between our fathers be now confirmed between us and thee, and let us enter into a covenant with thee, that thou do us no evil, as we have not injured thee, and as we have done thee only good, and we will leave thee in peace, thou art now blessed of the Lord. And he made them a feast, and they ate and drank. And they arose in the morning and covenanted, each man with his brother, and Isaac dismissed them, and they went from him in peace. And it was in that day that the servants of Isaac came and showed him concerning the well that they had digged. And they said to him, We have found water. And he called it Sheva, the swearing. Wherefore the name of the city is Beersheba unto this day. And Esau was the son of 40 years, and he took to wife Jehudith, daughter of Beeri the Hittite, and Basemath, daughter of Elon the Hittite, and they were rebels and irritators against the word of Isaac and Rebekah. Genesis 27. And it was, when Isaac was old, and his eyes were darkened from seeing, that he called Esau, his eldest son, and said to him, My son. And he said to him, Behold, I am. And he said, Behold now, I am old, I know not the day that I shall die, and now take thy weapons, thy knife and thy bow, and go out into the field, and hunt me venison, and make me food such as I like, and bring it to me, and I will eat, and my soul shall bless thee before I die. And Rebekah listened as Isaac was speaking with his son Esau. And Esau went into the field to hunt venison to bring it. And Rebekah spake to Jacob, her son, saying, Behold, I have heard thy father speaking with Esau thy brother, saying, Bring me now venison, and make me food, and I will eat and bless thee in the presence of the Lord before I die. And now, my son, obey me in what I command thee. Go now to the flock, and take thee from thence 2 good goat kids, and make them into food for thy father such as he loves, and carry unto thy father, that he may eat, and bless thee before he die. And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. It may be that my father will feel me, and I shall be in his eyes as a deceiver, and shall bring upon me curses, and not blessings. And his mother said to him, Unto me it hath been said in prophecy, that there shall be no curses upon thee, my son, only obey me, and go, and take for me. And he went, and took, and brought to his mother, and his mother made food such as his father loved. And Rebekah took the vestments of Esau her elder son, which were clean, and were with her in the house, and clothed Jacob her younger son. And with the skins of the kids she covered his hands, and upon the smoothness of his neck. And she gave the food and the bread that she had made into the hand of Jacob her son. And he went into his father, and said, Father. And he said, Behold me. Who art thou, my son? And Jacob said to his father, I am Esau, thy firstborn, I have done as thou hast told me. Arise now, turn thyself, and eat of my venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac said to his son, What is this, thou hast so quickly found, my son? And he said, Because the Lord thy God prepared it before me. And Isaac said to Jacob, Draw near now, and I will feel thee, my son, whether thou be my son Esau or not. And Jacob drew near to Isaac his father, and he felt him, and said, The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And he could not be known, because his hands were hairy, like the hands of Esau his brother, and he blessed him. And he said, But art thou my son Esau? And he said, I am. And he said, Bring before me, and I will eat of my son's venison, that my soul may bless thee. And he offered to him, and he did eat, and he brought him wine, and he drank. And Isaac his father said to him, Approach now, and kiss me, my son. And he approached, and kissed him, and he smelled the fragrance of his vestments, and blessed him, and said, Lo, the smell of my son is as the fragrance of a field which the Lord hath blessed. And the Lord shall give thee of the dew of heaven, and of the goodness of the earth, and abundance of corn and of wine. Let the people serve thee, and kingdoms be subservient to thee, be thou chief of thy brethren, and let the sons of thy mother worship thee. Cursed shall they be who curse thee, and blessed shall they be who bless thee. And it was when Isaac had completed to bless Jacob, and Jacob had, going, only gone out from Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. And he had also made food, and he brought it to his father, and said to his father, Arise, my father, and eat of thy son's venison, that thy soul may bless me. And Isaac his father said to him, Who art thou? And he said, I am thy son, thy firstborn, Esau. And Isaac was wonderstruck with exceeding great wonder, and said, Who is he who prepared venison, and brought it to me, and I have eaten of all before thou camest, and I have blessed him. And blessed shall he be. When Esau heard the words of his father, he cried a cry, great and bitter exceedingly. And he said to his father, Bless me, also, me, father. And he said, Thy brother came with subtlety, and hath received thy blessing. And he said, Rightly is his name called Jacob, he hath dealt subtly with me these 2 times, my birthright he took, and, behold, now he hath received my blessing. And he said, Hast thou not left me a blessing? And Isaac answered, and said to Esau, Behold, I have set him a chief over thee, and all his brethren I have given to him for servants, and with corn and wine have I sustained him, and for thee now what can I do, my son? And Esau said to his father, Hast thou but one blessing, father? Bless me also, my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said to him, Behold, thy habitation shall be of the best of the earth, and of the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live, and thy brother obey, and it will be that when his sons shall have transgressed the words of the law, thou wilt cast his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau kept enmity towards Jacob for the blessing wherewith his father had blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for father draw near, and I wilt kill Jacob my brother. And the words of Esau her eldest son were shown to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob her younger son, and said to him, Behold, Esau thy brother plotteth against thee to kill thee. And now, my son, receive from me, and arise and go to Laban my brother at Haran, and dwell with him a few days, until thy brother's wrath turn away, until the anger of thy brother turn from thee, and what thou hast done to him be forgotten, and I will send and bring thee thence. Why should I be bereaved of both of you in one day? And Rebekah said to Isaac, I am grieved in my life at the sight of the daughters of Hittah. If Jacob take a wife of the daughters of Hittah, like these of the daughters of the land, what to me is life? Genesis 28. And Isaac called Jacob and blessed him. And he commanded him, and said to him, Thou shalt not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan. Arise, go to Paddan Aram to the house of Bethuel the father of thy mother, and take to thee from thence a wife of the daughters of Laban, the brother of thy mother. And the all-sufficient God bless thee, and make thee to increase and multiply, and become an assemblage of tribes, and give the blessing of Abraham to thee and thy sons with thee, that thou mayest inherit the land of thy habitation which the Lord gave to Abraham. And Isaac sent Jacob away, and he went to Paddan Aram to Laban bar Bethuel, the Aramite, the brother of Rebekah, the mother of Jacob and Esau. And Esau, when he saw that Isaac had blessed Jacob, and sent him to Paddan Aram to take from thence a wife, and, as he blessed him, commanded him, saying, Thou shalt not take a wife from the daughters of Canaan, and that Jacob had obeyed his father and his mother, and had gone to Paddan Aram. Esau, considering that the daughters of Canaan were evil in the eyes of Isaac his father, went to Ishmael, and took Mahalath, daughter of Ishmael bar Abraham, the sister of Nebaioth, over his wives, unto him to wife. And Jacob went forth from Beersheba, and went to Haran, and he arrived at a place, and lodged there, because the sun had gone. And he took of the stones of the place, and set his pillow, and lay down in that place. And he dreamed, and, behold, a ladder was planted in the earth, and the head of it reached unto the height of heaven, and, behold, the angels of the Lord ascended and descended upon it, and, behold, the glory of the Lord stood above it. And he said, I am the God of Abraham thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land where thou sleepest, unto thee will I give it, and unto thy sons. And thy sons shall be many as the dust of the earth, and shall prevail to the west and to the east, and to the north and to the south, and through thee shall all the kindreds of the earth be blessed, and through thy sons. And, behold, my word shall be for thy help, and I will keep thee in every place whither thou goest, and I will bring thee again to this land, for I will not leave thee until I have done what I say to thee. And Jacob awoke from his sleep, and said, Verily the glory of the Lord dwelleth in this place, and I knew it not. And he feared and said, How awful is this place! This place is not common ground, but a place where there is pleasantness before the Lord, and this is nigh the gate of heaven. And Jacob rose up early in the morning, and took the stone which he had set for his pillow, and set it up, a pillar, and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place the house of God Bethel. But Luz was the name of the city at the first. And Jacob vowed a vow, saying, If the word of the Lord will be my help, and will keep me in that way in which I go, and will give me bread to eat, and raiment to wear, and bring me again in peace, then the Lord shall be my God. And at this stone which I have set up as a pillar, will I worship before the Lord, and of all that thou shalt give me, the tenth will I separate before thee. Genesis 29. And Jacob lifted up his feet, and came to the land of the children of the east. And he looked, and saw a well in a field, and, behold, 3 flocks of sheep lying near it, because from that well they watered the flocks, and a great stone was upon the mouth of the well. And thither all the flocks were gathered together, and they withdrew the stone from the mouth of the well, and watered the flock, and returned the stone upon the mouth of the well unto its place. And Jacob said to them, My brethren, whence are you? And they said, We are from Haran. And Jacob said to them, Know you Laban bar Nachor? And they said, We know. And he said, Hath he peace? And they said, Peace, and, behold, Rahel his daughter cometh with the flock. And he said, Behold, the day is yet great, it is not time to gather the cattle, water the sheep, and go to the pasture. And they said, We cannot till all the flocks are gathered, and we remove the stone from the mouth of the well, and water the flock. While he spake with them, Rahel came, with the flock of her father, for she was a shepherdess. And it was, when Jacob saw Rahel the daughter of Laban, the brother of his mother, and the flock of Laban the brother of his mother, that Jacob went near, and withdrew the stone from the well's mouth, and watered the flock of Laban, his mother's brother. And Jacob kissed Rahel, and lifted up his voice and wept. And Jacob showed Rahel that he was the son of her father's sister, and that he was the son of Rebekah. And she ran and showed to her father. And it was when Laban heard the hearing of Jacob the son of his sister, that he ran to meet him, and embraced him, and kissed him, and brought him into his house, and he narrated to Laban all these words. And Laban said to him, Thou art, however, my near kinsman, and thou art my flesh. And he abode with him a month of days. And Laban said to Jacob, Because thou art my brother, shalt thou serve me for nothing? Tell me, what shall be thy wages? And Laban had 2 daughters, the name of the elder Leah, and the name of the younger Rahel. And the eyes of Leah were beautiful, but Rahel was admirable in form, and beautiful in aspect. And Jacob loved Rahel, and he said, I will serve thee 7 years for Rahel thy younger daughter. And Laban said, It is better that I give her to thee than give her to another man. Reside with me. And Jacob served for Rahel 7 years, and they were in his eyes as a few days, inasmuch as he loved her. And Jacob said to Laban, Give me my wife, for the days of my service are fulfilled, and I will go to her. And Laban assembled all the men of the place, and made a feast. And it was in the evening, that he took Leah his daughter, and introduced her to him, and he entered to her. And Laban gave her Zilpah his handmaid unto Leah his daughter, to attend on her. And it was in the morning, and, behold, she was Leah. And he said to Laban, What is this that thou hast done to me? Was it not for Rahel that I served thee? And why hast thou been false with me? And Laban said, It is not so done in our place, to give the younger before the elder. Fulfill this week, and I will give thee also that, for the service that thou shalt serve with me yet 7 other years. And Jacob did so, and fulfilled the week of this, and he gave him Rahel his daughter to be his wife. And Laban gave to Rahel his daughter Bilhah her handmaid to wait upon her. And he went in also to Rahel, and he loved Rahel more than Leah. And he served yet with him 7 other years. And the Lord saw that Leah was hated, and he gave her to conceive, but Rahel was barren. And Leah conceived and bare a son, and she called his name Reuben, for she said, Because my affliction was manifest before the Lord, for now will my husband love me. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she said, Because it was heard before the Lord that I had hatred, and he gave me this also, and she called his name Shemeon. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she said, This time will my husband adhere to me, for I have borne him 3 sons, therefore she called his name Levi. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she said, This time will I give praise before the Lord, therefore she called his name Yehudah. And she ceased from bearing. Genesis 30. And Rahel saw that she did not bear unto Jacob, and Rahel envied her sister, and she said to Jacob, Give me children, and if not, I die. And the anger of Jacob was incensed against Rahel, and he said, Why ask of me? Is it not before the Lord that thou shouldest ask, who hath denied thee the generation of the womb? And she said, Behold my handmaid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear, and I also shall nourish children, and be builded up from her. And she gave him Bilhah her handmaid to wife, and Jacob went in unto her, and Bilhah conceived, and bare to Jacob a son. And Rahel said, The Lord hath judged me, and hath also received my prayer, and given me a son, therefore she called his name Dan. And Bilhah the handmaid of Rahel conceived again, and bare a second son to Jacob. And Rahel said, The Lord hath received my request, when I entreated in my prayer, I desired that I might have offspring as my sister, and also it is given me. And she called his name Naphtali. And Leah saw that she had ceased from bearing, and she took Zilpah her handmaid, and gave her to Jacob to wife. And Zilpah the handmaid of Leah bare a son to Jacob, and Leah said, There cometh prosperity, and she called his name Gad. And Zilpah the handmaid of Leah bare a second son to Jacob, and Leah said, Praise shall be mine, now will women praise me, and she called his name Asher. And Reuben went in the days of wheat harvest, and found mandrakes in the field, and he brought them to Leah his mother. And Rahel said to Leah, Give me now of thy son's mandrakes. And she said to her, Is it a little that thou hast taken my husband, and thou wilt take also my son's mandrakes? And Rahel said, Therefore shall he lie with thee at night for thy son's mandrakes. And Jacob came in from the field at evening, and Leah went out to anticipate him, and said, With me thou wilt go in, because with hire have I hired thee, with the mandrakes of my son. And he lay with her that night. And the Lord received the prayer of Leah, and she conceived, and bare to Jacob a 5th son. And Leah said, The Lord hath given me my reward, because I gave my handmaid to my husband. And she called his name Issachar. And Leah conceived again, and bare a 6th son to Jacob. And Leah said, The Lord hath given me a good portion. This time will the habitation of my husband be with me, because I have borne him 6 sons, therefore she called his name Zebulun. And afterward she bare a daughter, and called her name Dinah. And the remembrance of Rahel came before the Lord, and the Lord received her prayer, and gave her to conceive. And she conceived and bare a son, and she said, The Lord hath taken up my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, The Lord shall add to me another son. And it was when Rahel had borne Joseph, that Jacob said to Laban, Send me away, that I may go to my place, and to my land. Give me my wives and my children, for whom I have served thee, that I may go, for thou knowest the service with which I have served thee. And Laban said to him, If now I have found grace in thine eyes, I have proved that the Lord hath blessed me for thy sake. And he said, Certify thy wages with me, and I will give. And he said to him, Thou knowest how I have served thee, and what thy flocks have been with me, for thou hadst few before me, and they have increased into a multitude, and the Lord hath blessed thee for my sake. But now, what shall I do also for my own house? And he said, What shall I give thee? And Jacob said, Thou shalt not give me anything, but if thou wilt do with me this matter, I will return, and, pasturing thy flocks, will keep them. I will pass through all thy flocks today, and set apart from them every lamb streaked and speckled, and every black lamb among the lambs, and the streaked and speckled among the goats, and they shall be my wages. And my righteousness shall be testified in the day following, when thou wilt come upon my reward that shall be before thee, every one which is not streaked or speckled among the goats, and black among the lambs, that shall be as if stolen by me. And Laban said, Let it be according to thy word. And he set apart that day the he-goats of various color, and all the goats which were speckled or spotted, every one which had some white in him, and all that were black among the lambs, and he gave them into the hand of his sons. And he set a walk of 3 days between them and Jacob pastured the flock of Laban which remained. And Jacob took to him rods of white poplars, and of almond, for hazel, and of plane tree, and peeled in them white peelings, suthat, were peeled, the white which was in the rods appeared. And he fixed the rods that he had peeled in the canals, in the place of the watering of waters, the place to which they brought the flocks to drink, to be over against the flocks, that they might be incited when they came to drink. And the sheep were incited before the rods, and the sheep brought forth with checkered feet and streaked. And Jacob separated the lambs, and set before the sheep which were various colored and all that were black among the sheep of Laban, and placed them for himself a flock apart, not mixing them with the sheep of Laban. And it was that whenever the early prime sheep conceived, Jacob placed the rods before the eyes of the sheep in the canals, that they might conceive before the rods, but before the late sheep he did not place them. And so the late ones were Laban's, and the prime ones Jacob's. And the men increased very greatly, and had a multitude of flocks, and handmaids, and servants, and camels, and asses. Genesis 31. And he heard the words of Laban's sons, saying, Jacob hath taken all that was our father's, and of that which was our father's he hath gotten all these possessions. And Jacob saw the looks of Laban, and, behold, they were not with him as yesterday, and the time before. And the Lord said to Jacob, Return to thy country and to thy native place, and my word shall be for thy help. And Jacob sent and called Rahel and Leah to the field with his flocks, and he said to them, I see the looks of your father, that they are not with me as yesterday and the time before, and the God of my father hath been to my help. And you know that with all my strength I have served your father, but your father hath lied to me, and hath changed my wages 10 times, but the Lord hath not permitted him to hurt me. If now he said, The streaked shall be thy wages, then all the flock bare streaked, and if now he said, The checkered shall be thy wages, all the flock bare checkered. And the Lord hath separated them from the cattle of your father, and hath given them to me. And it was at the time when the flocks conceived, I lifted up my eyes, and saw in a dream, and, behold, the rams which leapt upon the flock were checkered, streaked, and speckled. And the angel of the Lord said to me in a dream, Jacob. And I said, Behold, I am. And he said, Lift up now thine eyes, and see, all the rams which leap upon the flock are checkered, streaked, and speckled, because all that Laban hath done to thee is manifest before me. I am Eloah, who appeared to thee at Bethel, where thou didst anoint the pillar, and where before me thou didst swear the oath. Arise now, go from this land, and return to the land of thy birth. And Rahel and Leah answered and said to him, Have we yet a portion or inheritance in our father's house? Are we not accounted as strangers by him? For he hath sold us, and hath devoured our money also. Therefore, all the wealth that the Lord hath separated from our father is ours and our children's, and now all that the Lord hath said to thee, do. And Jacob arose, and lifted up his sons and his wives upon camels, and led all his herds and all his substance which he had obtained, his herds and his substance which he had obtained in Paddan Aram, to go unto Isaac his father in the land of Canaan. And Laban had gone to shear his flock, and Rahel took the images that were her father's. And Jacob concealed from Laban the Aramite, and showed him not that he went. And he went, he and all that were his, and he arose and passed the Frat, and set his face toward the mountain of Gilead. And it was shown to Laban on the 3rd day that Jacob had gone. And he took his brethren with him, and pursued after him, going 7 days, and he overtook him in the mountain of Gilead. And a word came from before the Lord to Laban the Aramite in a dream of the night, and he said to him, Beware, lest thou speak with Jacob from good to evil. And Laban overtook Jacob, and Jacob had spread his tent in the mountain, and Laban made his brethren abide in the mountain of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, What hast thou done, that thou hast hidden from me, and taken away my daughters, as captives of the sword? Why didst thou conceal thy going, or conceal thyself to go, and didst hide it from me, and not show me, that I might then have sent thee away with mirth, and with hymns, and with tambourines, and with harps? Nor didst thou suffer me to kiss my sons and my daughters. Now hast thou done foolishly. It is in the power of my hands to do evil with thee, but the God of thy father spake to me in the evening, saying, Beware lest thou speak to Jacob from good to evil. And now, though going thou wouldest go, because desiring thou hast desired the house of thy father, why hast thou taken my religion? And Jacob answered and said to Laban, Because I feared, for I said, Lest thou shouldst take away thy daughters from me. The place where thou shalt find thy religious things shall not abide, before our brethren ascertain thou what of thine is with me, and take to thee. But Jacob knew not that Rahel had carried them away. And Laban entered into the tent of Leah, and into the tent of the 2 concubines, but found not, and he went forth from the tent of Leah, and entered the tent of Rahel. But Rahel had taken the images, and laid them in the panniers of the camels, and sat upon them. And Laban searched all the tent, but found not. And she said to her father, Let it not be displeasing in the eyes of my lord, that I am not able to rise before thee, for the way of women is upon me. And he scrutinized, but found not the images. And Jacob was angry, and contended with Laban. And Jacob answered and said to Laban, What is my guilt, my crime, that thou hast pursued after me? Now that thou hast searched all my things, what hast thou found, of all the things of thy house? Set it here before my brethren and thy brethren, and they shall decide between us both. These 20 years have I been with thee, thy ewes and thy goats have not failed, and the rams of thy flock I have not eaten. The wounded I have not brought to thee, what was deficient in number, from my hand hast thou required it. I have watched by day, and I have watched by night. Thus have I been, in the day the heat devoured me, and the frost came down upon me at night, and sleep passed away from my eyes. These 20 years have I served in thy house, 14 years for thy 2 daughters, and 6 years for thy sheep, and thou hast changed my wages 10 times. Unless the God of my fathers, the God of Abraham, and he whom Isaac hath feared, had been my helper, even now thou hadst sent me away empty, but my labor, and the travail of my hands, have been manifest before the Lord, and he rebuked thee in the evening. And Laban answered and said to Jacob, The daughters are my daughters, and the sons my sons, and the sheep are my sheep, and all whatsoever thou seest is mine, and to these, my daughters, what can I do this day, or unto their children which they have borne? And now come, let us enter into a covenant, I and thou, and it shall be for a witness between me and thee. And Jacob took a stone, and set it up as a pillar. And Jacob said to his brethren, Collect stones, and they took stones, and made a mound, and ate there upon the mound. And Laban called it Yagar-Sahadutha, but Jacob called it Galeed. And Laban said, This mound testifieth between me and thee today. Therefore he called the name of it the heap of witness, and the observatory, for he said, The word of the Lord will observe between me and thee, when we are hidden each man from his neighbor. If thou shalt afflict my daughters, or if thou shalt take wives over my daughters, no man is with us. See, the word of the Lord is witness between me and thee. And Laban said to Jacob, Behold this mound and this pillar, which thou hast erected between me and thee. And Laban said, This mound testifieth between me and thee today. And Laban said, This mound testifieth between me and thee today. This mound and pillar are a witness, that I will not pass over this mound to thee, and that thou shalt not pass over this mound and this pillar, to do me evil. The God of Abraham and the God of Nachor shall judge between us, the God of their fathers. And Jacob sware by him whom Isaac his father feared. And Jacob sacrificed victims in the mountain, and called his brethren to eat bread, and they ate bread, and tabernacled in the mountain. And Laban arose in the morning, and kissed his sons and his daughters, and blessed them, and went. Genesis 32. And Laban returned to his place. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of the Lord met him. And when Jacob saw them, he said, This is a host from before the Lord, and he called the name of the place Mahanaim. And Jacob sent messengers before him to Esau his brother to the land of Seir, in the region of Edom, and he instructed them, saying, So shall you tell to my lord, to Esau, Thus saith thy servant Jacob, With Laban I have dwelt, and have tarried, until now. And I have oxen, and asses, sheep, and servants, and handmaids, and have sent to show my lord, to find grace in thine eyes. And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, We came to thy brother, to Esau, and he cometh also to meet thee, and 400 men with him. And Jacob feared greatly, and it distressed him. And he divided the people that were with him, and the sheep, and oxen, and camels, into 2 hosts, and said, If Esau come to the one host and smite it, the host that is left may escape. And Jacob said, God of my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord, who didst say to me, Return to thy country and to thy native place, and I will do thee good, less are my righteousnesses than all the mercies and all the benefits which thou hast performed unto thy servant, for alone I passed this Yardena, and now I have become 2 bands. Deliver me now from the hand of my brother, from the band of Esau, for I am afraid of him, lest he come and smite me, and the mother with the children. And thou hast said, In doing good I will do good with thee, and will make thy sons many as the sand of the sea which cannot be numbered for number. And he housed there that night, and took of that which came to his hand, an offering for Esau his brother, goats 200, rams 20, ewes 200, and rams 20, camels giving milk and their young ones 30, cows 40, and bulls 10, she-asses 20, and colts 10. And he gave them into the hand of his servants, herd by herd separately, and said to his servants, Pass over before me, and put a space between herd and herd. And he commanded the foremost, saying, If Esau my brother meet thee, and ask thee, saying, Whose art thou? And, Whither goest thou? And, Whose are these that are before thee? Thou shalt say, They are an offering of thy servant Jacob, which he hath sent to my lord, to Esau, and, behold, he also cometh after us. And he instructed also the second and the third, and all of them who followed the herds, saying, According to this word you shall speak with Esau, when you find him, and say also, Behold, thy servant Jacob cometh after. For he said, I will quiet his anger by the offering that goeth before me, and afterward I will see his face, perhaps he will accept me. And the offering went over before his face, and he himself lodged that night in the camp. And he arose in the night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 concubines, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jubekah, and he took them and made them pass over the torrent, and made what was his to pass over. And Jacob remained alone, and a man wrestled with him till the morning ascended. And he saw that he prevailed not with him, and he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was dislocated in wrestling with him. And he said, Let me go, for the morning ascendeth. And he said, I will not let thee go, unless thou bless me. And he said to him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall be no longer Jacob, but Israel, for a prince art thou before the Lord, and with men, and thou hast prevailed. And Jacob asked him, and said, Show me now thy name. And he said, Why dost thou ask my name? And he blessed him there. And Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, because I have seen the angel of the Lord face to face, and my soul hath been saved. And the sun arose upon him as he passed over Penuel, and he went lame upon his thigh. Therefore the sons of Israel do not eat the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh, unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh in the sinew that shrank. Genesis 33. And Jacob lifted up his eyes, and saw, and, behold, Esau came, and with him 400 men, and he divided the children with Leah, and with Rahel, and with the 2 concubines. And he set the concubines and their children first, and Leah and her children after, and Rahel and Joseph after them. And he passed over before them, and bowed to the earth 7 times, until he came nigh to his brother. And Esau ran to meet him, and embraced him, and fell upon his neck, and kissed him, and they wept. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw the women and the children, and said, What are these to thee? And he said, The children whom the Lord hath given to thy servant. And the concubines approached, they and their children, and bowed. And Leah also approached and her children, and bowed, and afterward Joseph and Rahel approached, and bowed. And he said, What to thee is all this troop which I have met? And he said, To find mercy in the eyes of my lord. And Esau said, I have much, my brother, let what is thine own profit thee. And Jacob said, I pray thee, if I have now found mercy in thine eyes, that thou wouldst accept the present from my hand, because I have now seen thy face as the vision of the face of the great, and thou art pleased with me. Receive, I pray, my offering which is brought to thee, because the Lord hath been merciful to me, and because I have all? And he was urgent on him, and he took it. And he said, Let us journey and go, and I will go along with thee. And he said, My Lord knoweth that the little ones are tender, and the sheep and kine giving milk are with me, and if they overdrive them one day, all the flock may die. Let my Lord pass on before his servant, and I will lead on quietly, according to the foot of the little ones, according to the foot of the work that is before me, and according to the foot of the sucklings, until I come to my Lord at Seir. And Esau said, Let me leave with thee of the people who are with me. And he said, Why should this be? Let me find grace in the eyes of my Lord. And Esau returned that day on his way to Seir. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth, and builded him an house, and made tabernacles for his cattle, therefore he called the name of the place Succoth. And Jacob came in peace to the city of Shechem, which is in the land of Canaan, in his coming from Paddan Aram, and he abode near the face of the city. And he bought the possession of the field where he had spread his tent, of the hand of the sons of Hamor, the father of Shechem, for 100 lambs. And he raised there an altar, and offered service upon it before God, the God of Israel. Genesis 34. And Dinah, the daughter of Leah, whom she bare to Jacob, went forth to see the daughters of the land. And Shechem bar Hamor the Hivite, the prince of the land, saw her, and took her, and lay with her, and humbled her. And his soul took pleasure in Dinah the daughter of Jacob, and he loved the damsel, and spake to the heart of the damsel. And Shechem spake to Hamor his father, saying, Take to me this damsel for a wife. And Jacob heard that he had polluted Dinah his daughter. And his sons were with his flocks in the field, and Jacob was silent until they were come. And Hamor the father of Shechem came forth to Jacob to speak with him. And the sons of Jacob came up from the field when they heard. And the men were indignant and very angry, because shame had been wrought in Israel by his lying with the daughter of Jacob, for so it should not have been done. Hamor spake with them, saying, The soul of Shechem my son hath pleasure in your daughter, give her now to him to wife. And marry with us, and take our daughters to you, and the land shall be before you, inhabit and do business in it, and possess it. And Shechem said to her father and to her brethren, Let me find favor in your eyes, and what you shall tell me I will give. Multiply upon me dowry and present, and I will give as you may tell me, but give me the damsel to wife. And the sons of Jacob answered Shechem and Hamor his father, and with subtlety they spake, because he had defiled Dinah their sister. And they said to them, We cannot do this thing, to give our sister to a man uncircumcised, for that would be a reproach to us. Nevertheless in this we will agree with you, if you will be as we are, by circumcising every male among you, and we will give our daughters to you, and your daughters will we take to us, and will dwell with you and be one people. But if you will not consent to us to be circumcised, we will take our daughter and go. And their words were pleasing in the eyes of Hamor, and in the eyes of Shechem the son of Hamor. And the young man delayed not to do the thing, because he delighted in the daughter of Jacob, and he was more honorable than all his father's house. And Hamor came, and Shechem his son, to the gate of the city, and spake to the men of the city, saying, These men are friendly with us, and they made well in the land, and do business in it, and the land, behold, it is wide on bought hands before them. Their daughters we will take to us for wives, and our daughters we will give to them. Only in this will the men agree with us to dwell with us, to be one people, in every male of us being circumcised, as they are circumcised. Their flocks, and their possessions, and all their cattle, will they not be ours? Only let us consent to them, and they will dwell with us. And everyone who went out of the gate of his city received of Hamor and of Shechem his son, and they were circumcised, every male, everyone who went out of the gate of his city. And it was on the third day, when their pains were strong upon them, that the two sons of Jacob, Shimeon, and Levi, the brothers of Dinah, took each man his sword, and came upon the city, which dwelt in security, and slew every male, and Hamor and Shechem his son they killed with the edge of the sword. And they brought Dinah out of the house of Shechem, and went. And the sons of Jacob came up to the spoil of the slain, and sacked the town, because they had defiled their sister. Their sheep, and their oxen, and their asses, and all that was in the city and the field, they took. And all their substance, and all their little ones, and their wives, they captured and spoiled, and all which was in the house. And Jacob said to Shimeon and Levi, You have troubled me, in putting strife between me and the inhabitants of the land, the Canaanites and the Perizzites, and I a people few for number, and they will gather against me, and smite me, and I shall perish, I and the men of my house. And they said, As with an outcast should he deal with our sister? Genesis 35. And the Lord said to Jacob, Arise, go up to Bethel, and dwell there, and make there an altar unto Eloah, who appeared to thee when in thy flight from before Esau thy brother. And Jacob said to the men of his house, and to all who were with him, Put away the Gentile idols that are among you, and purify, and change your raiment, and we will arise and go up to Bethel, and I will make there an altar unto Eloah, who heard my prayer in the day of my distress, and whose word was my helper in the way that I went. And they gave Jacob all the Gentile idols that were in their hands, and the jewels that were in their ears, and Jacob hid them under the terebinth which was near Shechem. And they journeyed, and fear from before the Lord was upon the peoples in the cities surrounding them, and they followed not after the sons of Jacob. And Jacob came to Luz, which is in the land of Canaan, which is Bethel, he and all the people who were with him. And he builded there an altar, and called the place El Bethel, because the angel of the Lord had appeared to him there when he fled from before his brother. And Deborah, the nurse of Rebekah, died, and was buried below Bethel, in the declivity of the vale, and he called the name of it, the Vale of Weeping. And the Lord appeared unto Jacob again when he had come from Paddan Aram, and blessed him. And the Lord said to Jacob, Thy name shall be no more Jacob, but Israel shall be thy name. And he called his name Israel. And the Lord said to him, I am El Shaddai, increase and multiply, a people and an assemblage of tribes shall be from thee, and kings who shall reign over the peoples shall come forth from thee. And the land that I gave to Abraham and to Isaac I will give unto thee, and to thy sons after thee, will I give the land. And the glory of the Lord ascended above him, in the place where he had spoken with him. And Jacob erected a pillar in the place where he had spoken with him, a pillar of stone, and outpoured libations upon it, and poured oil thereon. And Jacob called the name of the place where the Lord had spoken with him Bethel. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was yet a space of land to come unto Ephrat, and Rahel travailed, and had hard pain in her birth labor. And as she travailed in her labor, the midwife said to her, Fear not, for also this to thee is a son. And it was in the going forth of her soul, for she died, that she called his name the son of my woe, but his father called him Benjamin. And Rahel died, and was buried in the way of Ephrat, which is Bethlehem. And Jacob erected a pillar upon her grave, that is the pillar of the tomb of Rahel unto this day. And Israel proceeded and spread his tabernacle beyond the tower of Adar. And it was while Israel dwelt in that land, that Reuben went and lay with Bilhah, the concubine of his father. And Israel heard it. And the sons of Jacob were 12. The sons of Leah, the firstborn of Jacob, Reuben, and Shimeon, and Levi, and Yehudah, and Issachar, and Zebulun. The sons of Rahel, Joseph, and Benjamin. The sons of Bilhah, the handmaid of Rahel, Dan and Naphtali, and the sons of Zilpah, the handmaid of Leah, Gad, and Asher. These are the sons of Jacob, who were born to him in Paddan Aram. And Jacob came unto Isaac his father, unto Mamre, the city of Arba, which is Hebron, for Abraham and Isaac had dwelt there. And the days of Isaac were 180 years. And Isaac expired and died, and was gathered unto his people, old and content with days, and Esau and Jacob his sons buried him. Genesis 36. And these are the generations of Esau, who is Edom. Esau took his wives from the daughters of Canaan, Adah, daughter of Halon the Hittite, and Aholibamah, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Sabean the Hivite, and Basemath, the daughter of Ishmael, the sister of Nebaioth. And Adah bare to Esau Eliphaz, and Basemath bare Reuel, and Aholibamah bare Jehus, and Halam, and Korach. These are the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. And Esau took his wives, and his sons, and his daughters, and all the souls of his house, and his flocks, and all his cattle, and all his substance which he had gotten in the land of Canaan, and went into another land from before Jacob his brother, because their substance was too great for them to dwell together, in the land of their habitation. could not sustain them with regard to their cattle. And Esau dwelt in the mountain of Seir. Esau is Edom. And these are the generations of Esau, the father of the Edomah, in the mountain of Seir. These are the names of the sons of Esau: Eliphaz, the son of Adah, the wife of Esau; Ruel, son of Basemath, the wife of Esau. And the sons of Eliphaz were Theman, Omar, Zepho, and Gatam, and Kenaz. And Thimnah was the concubine of Eliphaz bar Esau, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek. These are the sons of Adah, the wife of Esau. And these are the sons of Ruel, Nahath, and Zara, Shammah and Mesa. These are the sons of Basemath, the wife of Esau. And these are the sons of Ahalavama, the daughter of Anna, the daughter of Zebeon, the wife of Esau, and she bare unto Esau Jehus, and Halam, and Korach. These are the chiefs of the sons of Esau. Of the sons of Eliphaz the firstborn of Esau, Rabba Theman, Rabba Omar, Rabba Zepho, Rabba Kenaz, Rabba Korach, Rabba Gatam, Rabba Amalek. These are the chiefs of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Adah. And these are the sons of Ruel bar Esau, Rabba Nashith, Rabba Zarek, Rabba Shammah, Rabba Mesa. These are the chiefs of Ruel in the land of Edom. These are the sons of Basemath, the wife of Esau. And these are the sons of Ahalavama, the wife of Esau, Rabba Jehus, Rabba Halam, Rabba Korach. These are the chiefs of Ahalavama, the daughter of Anna the wife of Esau. These are the sons of Esau, and these are their chieftains. He is Edom. These are the sons of Seir, the Kerites, the inhabitants of the land, Lothan, and Shobal, and Zibeon, and Anna, and Disan, and Etzer, and Dishon. These are the chieftains of the Korah, the sons of Seir, in the land of Edom. And the sons of Loti were Hori and Hemaim, and the sister of Lotan was Timnah. And these are the Beni Shobal, Alvan, and Manahath, and Ebal, Shephi, and Onam. And these are the sons of Zebeon, Aiah and Anna. He is Anna who found the giants in the desert while he tended the asses of his father Zibeon. And these are the children of Anna, Disan, and Ahalivania the daughter of Anna. And these are the sons of Dishon, Hemdan, and Eshban, and Jethron, and Koran. These are the sons of Etzer, Belon, and Zavan, and Akan. These are the sons of Dishon, Hutz and Aaron. These are the chieftains of the Korah, Rabba Lotan, Rabba Shobal, Rabba Zebeon, Rabba Anna, Rabba Disan, Rabba Etzer, Rabba Dishon. These are the chieftains of the Korah, according to their principalities in the land of Seir. And these are the kings who reigned in the land of Edom. Before that kings reigned among the sons of Israel. Bela the son of Beor reigned in Edom, and the name of his city was Dinavah. And Bela died, and instead of him reigned Yabab the son of Zerah of Bozrah. And Yabab died, and instead of him reigned Hushan, of the land of the south. And Hushan died, and instead of him reigned Hadad, the son of Bedad, who slew the Midiani in the fields of Moab, and the name of his city was Avith. And Hadad died, and in his stead reigned Simla of Mazareka. And Simla died, and in his stead reigned Shaul of Rechovath, which is on the Frat. And Shul died, and in his stead reigned Baalchanan bar Achbor. And Baalchanan bar Achbor died, and in his stead reigned Hadar, and the name of his city was Pau, and the name of his wife Mehetabel, the daughter of Matard, the daughter of a changer of gold. And these are the names of the chieftains of Esau, after their kindreds, by their places, with their names: Rabba Timnah, Rabba Alva, Rabba Jetheth, Rabba Ahalavama, Rabba Elah, Rabba Finan, Rabba Canis, Rabba Taman, Rabba Mabzar, Rabba Magdiel, Rabba Iram. These are the chieftains of Edom, after their habitations in the land of their possessions. He is Esau, the father of the Edomites. Genesis 37. And Jacob dwelt in the land of the habitation of his father, in the land of Canaan. These are the generations of Jacob. Joseph was a son of 17 years, he kept the flock with his brothers, and he had been brought up with the sons of Bilhah, and with the sons of Zilpah, the wives of his father, and Joseph brought their evil report to his father. But Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, because he had in him a wise son, and he made him a variegated robe. And his brothers saw that their father loved him better than all his brethren, and they hated him, and were not willing to speak with him peaceably. And Joseph dreamed a dream, and showed it to his brothers, and they hated him the more. And he said to them, Hear now this dream which I have dreamed. Behold, we were binding sheaves in the midst of the field, and lo, my sheaf arose and became upright, and, behold, your sheaves stood around and worshipped my sheaf. And his brothers said to him, Is it thy fancy reigning to reign over us? Or a Shelton, dost thou think to govern us? And they added yet to hate him for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and described it to his brothers, saying, Behold, I have dreamed a dream again, and lo, the sun, and the moon, and 11 stars worshipped me. And he described it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said to him, What dream is this that thou hast dreamed? Am I and thy mother and thy brothers to come and worship thee on the earth? And his brothers envied him, but his father kept the word. And his brothers went to tend the flock of their father in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, Do not thy brothers tend the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send thee to them. And he said, Behold me. And he said to him, Go now, and see the welfare of your brothers and the welfare of the flock, and return me word. And he sent him from the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a man found him, and, behold, he wandered in the field. And the man inquired of him, saying, Whom seekest thou? And he said, I look for my brothers, show me, I beseech thee, where they feed. And the man said, They have gone hence, for I heard them say, We will go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. And they saw him from afar, and before he came nigh, they devised against him to kill him. And they said, A man to his brother, Behold, this master of dreams cometh. And now, come, we will kill him, and cast him into one of the pits, and will say an evil beast hath devoured him, and we shall see what will be the end of his dreams. And Reuben heard, and delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not slay his life. And Reuben said, Do not shed blood, cast him into this pit in the wilderness, but stretch not forth a hand against him, that he might deliver him from their hands to bring him back to his father. And it was when Joseph had come to his brethren that they took off his robe, the variegated robe which was upon him, and they took him and cast him into the pit. But the pit was empty, no water was in it. And they reclined to eat bread. And they lifted up their eyes and looked, and, behold, a band of Arabs were coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing spices, and resin, and myrrh, to go down to Mizraim. And Jehudah said to his brethren, What gain should we have by killing our brother and covering his blood? Come, and we will sell him to the Arabs, and our hand shall not be upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh. And his brethren hearkened to him. And there passed by Midianite men, Gabri Midianai, merchants, and they drew and lifted up Joseph from the pit, and sold Joseph to the Arabs for 20 of silver, and they brought Joseph into Mizraim. And Reuben returned to the pit, and, behold, Joseph was not in the pit. And he rent his clothes, and returned to his brethren, and said, The youth is not, and I, whither shall I go? But they took Joseph's robe, and killed the kid of the goats, and dabbled the robe in the blood. And they sent the variegated robe, and they brought to their father, and said, This have we found, know now whether it is the robe of thy son, or not. And he knew it, and said, It is my son's robe, an evil beast hath devoured him, slain is Joseph. And Jacob rent his clothes, and wrapped sackcloth upon his loins, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons, and all his house, arose to comfort him, but he refused to take comfort, and said, For I will go down unto my son, mourning into Sheol. And his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him in Mizraim to Potiphar, a prince of Pharaoh, chief of the killers. Genesis 38. And it was at that time that Jehudah went down from his brethren, and turned aside to an Adulamite man whose name was Hira. And Jehudah saw there the daughter of a merchant man whose name was Shuvah, and he took her and went in with her, and she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name Her, and she conceived again, and bare a son, and called his name Onan. And she added again, and bare a son, and called his name Shelah, and he was in Kesib when she bare him. And Jehudah took a wife for her his firstborn, and her name was Tamar. And her the firstborn of Jehudah was evil before the Lord, and the Lord caused him to die. And Jehudah said to Onan, Go in with the wife of thy brother, and associate with her, and raise up seed to thy brother. And Onan knew that after his name the seed would not be called, and it was that when he went in with the wife of his brother, he corrupted his way upon the earth that he might not raise up seed unto his brother, and what he did was evil before the Lord, and he caused him also to die. And Jehudah said to Tamar his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow in thy father's house until Shelah my son be grown up. For he said, Lest he also die like his brothers, and Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And after many days the daughter of Shuvah, Jehudah's wife, died, and Jehudah was comforted, and he went up to the shearers of his sheep, he and Hira the Adulamite his friend unto Timnath. And it was shown to Tamar, saying, Behold, thy father-in-law cometh to Timnath to shear his sheep. And she laid aside the dress of her widowhood, and covered herself with a mantle or a large veil, and adorned herself, and sat in the dividing of Anan which is in the way to Timnath. For she saw that Shelah had grown up, and she had not been given to him for a wife. And Jehudah saw her, and thought that she was an outcast, because she had covered her face. And he declined to her by the way, and said, Give me now to go in unto thee, for he did not know that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come to me? And he said, I will send thee a kid of the goats from the flock. And she said, If thou wilt give me a pledge until thou send. And he said, What is the pledge that I shall give thee? And she said, Thy seal ring, and thy scarf, and thy staff that is in thy hand. And he gave to her, and went into her, and she conceived by him. And she arose, and went, and put off the veil from her, and dressed herself in the dress of her widowhood. And Jehudah sent the kid of the goats, by the hand of his friend the Adulamite, to receive the pledge from the hand of the woman, but he could not find her. And he inquired of the men of the place, saying, Where is the harlot who was in Anan upon the way? And they said to him, There is no harlot here. And he returned to Jehudah, and said, I could not find her. The men of the place also said, there is no harlot there. And Jehudah said, let her take it to her, lest we be in contempt. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her. And it was 3 months, and it was showed to Jehudah, saying, tomorrow thy daughter-in-law hath committed fornication, and, behold, she is with child by fornication. And Jehudah said, bring her out, and let her be burned. And she was brought out. And she sent to her father-in-law, saying, by the man to whom these belong I am with child. And she said, acknowledge now, whose are these, the seal, the scarf, and the staff? And Jehudah acknowledged and said, she is justified in having conceived from me, because I have not given her Shelah my son. And he added not again to know her. And it was the time of her giving birth, and, behold, twins were in her womb. And it was in giving birth that one of them put forth a hand, and the midwife took and tied scarlet upon his hand, saying, this came the first. And it was when he had drawn back his hand that his brother came forth, and she said, how much greater strength is with thee, that thou hast prevailed. And she called his name Pharez. And afterwards came forth his brother who had the crimson on his hand, and she called his name Zara. Genesis 39. But Joseph was brought down into Mizraim, and Potiphar, a chief of Pharaoh, a chief of the killers, a Mizraite man, bought him from the hand of the Arabei who had brought him down thither. And the word of the Lord was the helper of Joseph, and he became a prosperous man, and was in the house of his Mizraite master. And his master saw that the word of the Lord was his helper, and that all that he did the Lord prospered in his hand. And Joseph found favor in his eyes, and he served him. And he appointed him over his house, and all that he had he delivered into his hand. And it was from the time that he appointed him over his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the house of the Mizraite for Joseph's sake, and the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had, in the house and in the field. And he left all that belonged to him in the hand of Joseph, and he knew of nothing that was with him, except the bread which he ate. Now Joseph was of goodly appearance, beautiful in aspect. And it was after these things that the wife of his master lifted up her eyes to Joseph, and said, lie with me. But he refused, and said to his master's wife, behold, my master knoweth not what is with me in the house, and all that he hath delivered unto my hand. There is no one in this house greater than I, and he hath not prohibited anything from me but thyself, because thou art his wife, and how can I do this great wickedness and become guilty before the Lord? And it was when she spake with Joseph daily that he would not hearken to her to lie with her, or be with her. And it was about this day that he came into the house to examine the writings of his affairs, and no man of the men of the house was there in the house. And she laid hold of his garments, saying, lie with me. But he left his garment in her hand, and fled, and went forth into the street. And she called to the men of her house, and spake to them, saying, see, he brought us a Hebrew man to mock at us. He came in to me to lie with me, and I cried with a high voice. And it was when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his robe with me, and fled and went forth into the street. And she let his robe remain with her until his master came into his house. And she spake with him these words, saying, the Hebrew servant whom thou broughtest us came in to me to mock at me. And it was when I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his robe with me and fled into the street. And when his master heard the words of his wife which she spake with him, saying, according to these things hath thy servant done to me, his anger waxed strong, and his master took Joseph, and delivered him to the house of the bound, where the prisoners of the king were bound, and he was there in the house of the bound. But the word of the Lord was the helper of Joseph, and showed him mercy, and gave him favor in the eyes of the captain of the prison. And the captain of the prison gave into the hand of Joseph all the prisoners who were in the house of the bound, and all that they did there was done according to his word. The captain of the prison saw no fault in his hand, because the word of the Lord was his helper, and that which he did the Lord made to prosper. Genesis 40. And after these things the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Mizraim offended their master, the king of Mizraim. And Pharaoh was angry with 2 of his chiefs, with the chief of the cupbearers and with the chief of the bakers. And he gave them into ward in the house of the captain of the executioners' killers in the house of the prison, the place where Joseph was confined. And the captain of the executioners appointed Joseph with them, and he ministered to them, and they were certain days inward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the cupbearer and the baker of the king of Mizraim, who were confined in the house of the bound. And Joseph came to them in the morning, and saw them, and, behold, they were melancholy. And he asked the chiefs of Pharaoh who were with him inward, in his master's house, saying, why are your faces evil today? And they said to him, we have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said to them, are not interpretations from before the Lord? Relate it now to me. And the chief of the cupbearers related his dream to Joseph, and said to him, in my dream, behold, a vine was before me, and in the vine were 3 branches, and it was, as it sprouted, it produced buds, and, having flowered, ripened clusters of grapes. And the cup of Pharaoh was in my hand, and I took grapes and expressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And Joseph said to him, this is the interpretation, the 3 branches are 3 days. At the end of 3 days, Pharaoh will remember thee and restore thee to thy service, and thou wilt give the cup into Pharaoh's hand, according to thy former custom when thou wast cupbearer to him. But let remembrance of me be with thee when it shall be well with thee, and do me favor, I beseech thee, and remember me before Pharaoh, and deliver me from this prison. For I was verily taken by fraud from the land of the Hivory, and here have I done nothing evil that I should be imprisoned. And when the master of the bakers saw that he had interpreted pleasantly, he said to Joseph, I also was in my dream, and, behold, 3 baskets of confectionery were upon my head, and in the upper basket were all sorts of food for Pharaoh, the work of the baker, and the birds ate them from the basket that was on my head. And Joseph answered and said, This is the interpretation of it, the 3 baskets are 3 days, at the end of 3 days will Pharaoh remove thy head from off thee, and will hang thee upon a gibbet, and the birds will eat thy flesh from off thee. And it was on the 3rd day, the day of the nativity of Pharaoh, that he made a feast for all his servants, and he took the head of the chief cupbearer and the head of the chief of the bakers in the midst of his servants. And he restored the cupbearer to his office, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. And the chief of the bakers he hanged, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief cupbearer did not remember Joseph, but forgat him. Genesis 41. And it was at the end of 2 years that Pharaoh dreamed, and, behold, he stood by the river. And, behold, there came up from the river 7 oxen, goodly in appearance, and fat-fleshed, and they grazed in the meadow. And, behold, 7 other oxen came up from the river after them, evil in appearance, and lean-fleshed, and they stood beside them by the bank of the river. And the evil-looking and lean-fleshed oxen ate up the 7 well-looking and fat ones, and Pharaoh awoke. And he slept, and dreamed a second time, and, behold, 7 ears rose up from one stalk, large and good, and, behold, 7 ears, thin, and blighted with the east wind, sprang up after them. And the 7 wasted ears devoured the 7 large and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and, behold, a dream. And when it was morning his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called all the magicians of Mizraim, and all the wise men, and Pharaoh related the dreams to them, but they could not interpret them to Pharaoh. And the chief of the cupbearers spake to Pharaoh, saying, My faults I do remember this day. Pharaoh was displeased with his servants, and gave me into custody at the house of the chief executioner, and the chief baker with me. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, we dreamed. And with us there was a Hebrew youth, a servant of the chief executioner, and we recounted to him, and he explained to us our dreams, to each man according to his dream he explained, and according as he had explained to us, so it was, me he restored to my service, and him he hanged. And Pharaoh sent, and called Joseph, and made him hasten from the prison, and he dressed his hair, and changed his garments, and came unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one to interpret it. And I have heard of thee, saying, that thou hearest a dream, and dost interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, Not from my wisdom, but from before the Lord, will there be an answer of peace said unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh spake with Joseph, saying, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and, behold, from the river rose up 7 oxen, fat-fleshed and goodly in appearance, and they grazed in the meadow. And, behold, 7 other oxen came up after them, lean and most evil in appearance, so wanting in flesh, that their like I have not seen in all the land of Mizraim for badness. And the lean oxen and evil ones ate up the 7 first fat oxen. And they entered into their stomachs, but it could not be known that they had entered into their stomachs, for their appearance was bad as before. And I awoke. I saw in my dream, and, behold, 7 ears of corn arose on one stalk, full and good. And, behold, 7 other ears, hard, thin, and blasted with the east wind, sprang up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears. And I told it to the magicians, but there was no one who could show it to me. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. That which the Lord is about to do he hath showed to Pharaoh. The 7 good oxen are 7 years, and the 7 good ears of corn are 7 years, the dream is one. And the 7 lean and evil oxen which came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 ears, thin, and blasted with the east wind, are 7 years of famine. This is the word which I have spoken to Pharaoh. What the Lord is about to do, he hath showed to Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty in all the land of Mizraim. And after them will arise 7 years of famine, and all the plenty in the land of Mizraim will be forgotten, and the famine will consume the people of the land. And plenty will not be known in the land for that famine which will be afterward, for it will be very mighty. And forasmuch as the dream was repeated to Pharaoh twice, it is a confirmed thing before the Lord, and the Lord will hasten to do it. And now let Pharaoh look out a prudent and wise man, and appoint him over the land of Mizraim. Let Pharaoh do this, and appoint officers faithful men over the land, and let them sow the land of Mizraim in the 7 years of plenty, and collect all the produce of those good years that come, and lay up provision unto the hand of Pharaoh's officers, and preserve it in the cities, and it will be provision for the people of the land in the 7 years of famine that are coming in the land of Mizraim. that the people of the land may not be consumed by the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, Can we find a man like this, in whom is the spirit of prophecy from the Lord? And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Since the Lord hath made all this known to thee, there is none more prudent or wise than thou. Thou shalt be appointed over my house, and by thy word shall all my people be governed. Only in the throne of this kingdom will I be more honorable than thou. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, See, I have appointed thee over all the land of Mizraim. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and set it upon Joseph's hand, and clothed him in a robe of lawn, and put a chain of gold upon his neck. And he made him ride in his own second chariot, and they proclaimed before him, This is the father of the king, and he appointed him over all the land of Mizraim. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thy word shall no man lift up his hand to hold a weapon, nor his foot to mount a horse, in all the land of Mizraim. And Pharaoh called the name of Joseph, the man to whom mysteries are revealed. And he gave him Asenath, the daughter of Potipherah, prince of On, to be his wife, and Joseph went forth ruling over the land of Mizraim. And Joseph was a son of 30 years when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Mizraim. And Joseph went out from before Pharaoh, and passed through all the land of Mizraim. And the inhabitants of the land collected in the 7 years of plenty the provision into granaries. And he collected all the provision of the 7 years which was in the land of Mizraim, and laid up the provision in cities, in the midst of each city the provision of the land surrounding it. And Joseph gathered provision as the sand of the sea, exceeding much, until he ceased to number, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons, before the year of famine came, which Asenath, daughter of Potipherah, prince of On, bare to him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, because the Lord hath made me to forget all my labor in all my father's house. And the name of the second he called Ephraim, because the Lord hath made me to increase in the land of my servitude. And the 7 years of plenty which were in the land of Mizraim were completed. And the 7 years of famine began to come, as Joseph had said, and the famine was in all the lands, but in all the land of Mizraim there was bread. Yet all the land of Mizraim was famished, and the people cried before Pharaoh for bread. And Pharaoh said to all the Mizraim, Go unto Joseph, and what he shall say to you, do. And the famine was over all the face of the land, and Joseph opened all the granaries in which was the corn, and sold to the Mizraim, and the famine became mighty in the land of Mizraim. And all the inhabitants of the earth came into Mizraim to buy corn of Joseph, because the famine was mighty in all the earth. Genesis 42. And Jacob saw that corn was sold in Mizraim, and Jacob said to his sons, Why look you on each other? And he said, Behold, I have heard that corn is sold in Mizraim. Go down thither, and buy us from thence, and we shall live, and not die. And the 10 brothers of Joseph went down to buy corn from Mizraim. But Benjamin, the brother of Joseph, Jacob sent not with his brethren, for he said, Lest death should befall him. And the sons of Israel came to buy corn among them who came, for the famine was in the land of Canaan. And Joseph, who was ruler over the land, was he who sold the corn to all the people of the earth. And the brothers of Joseph came, and bowed before him with their faces upon the ground. And Joseph saw his brothers, and knew them, and considered what he should say to them. And he spake with them severely, and said to them, Whence come you? And they said, From the land of Canaan, to buy corn. And Joseph knew his brothers, but they did not know him. And Joseph remembered the dreams which he had dreamed of them, and he said to them, You are spies, to see the ruin of the land are you come? And they said, No, my lord, Ribani, thy servants are come to buy corn. We are all the sons of one man. Right are we, thy servants are not spies. But he said to them, No, but you are come to see the ruin of the land. And they said, Thy servants are 12 brothers, the sons of one man, in the land of Canaan, and, behold, the youngest is with our father today, and one is not. And Joseph said to them, That is what I have told you, saying, You are spies, by this you shall be proved, by the life of Pharaoh you shall not go hence, until your youngest brother be come hither. Send one of you, and bring your brother, but you shall be bound, and your word shall be proved, whether you have spoken the truth, if not, by the life of Pharaoh, you are spies. And he put them in the house of custody 3 days. And Joseph said to them the 3rd day, This do, and live, for I fear before the Lord. If you be true, let one of your brethren be bound in the prison, and go you, carry the provision which is needed in your house, and bring your youngest brother to me, and your words will be verified, and you shall not die. And they did so. And they said, A man to his brother, We are verily guilty concerning our brother, that we saw the anguish of his soul, when he implored us, and we would not hearken to him, therefore is this distress come upon us. And Reuben answered them, saying, Did not I tell you, saying, Do not sin against the youth? But you would not hearken. Thus, behold, his blood is required. But they knew not that Joseph heard, for there was an interpreter between them. And he turned himself away from them, and wept. And he returned and spake to them, and took Shimeon from them, and bound him before their eyes. And Joseph commanded to fill their vessels with corn, and return their money thou each man in his sack, and give them food in the way. And he did so by them. And they laid their corn upon their asses, and went thence. And one opened his sack to give provender to his ass at the house of lodging, and saw his money, and, behold, it was in the mouth of his package, and he said to his brothers, My money is returned, and, behold, it is in my package. And the knowledge of their hearts failed, and they were each of them confounded, saying, What is this which the Lord hath done to us? And they came to Jacob their father in the land of Canaan, and showed him all that had happened to them, saying, The man, the lord of the country, spoke hardly with us, and dealt with us as spies of the land. And we told him, We are true men, not spies, we are 12 brothers, sons of one father, one is not, and the youngest is today with our father in the land of Canaan. And the man, the lord of the country, said to us, By this I shall know that you are true men. Leave one of your brethren with me, and take the corn which is needed in your house, and go, and bring your youngest brother to me, and I shall know that you are not spies, and when you will be proved to be true men, I will give up your brother to you, and you shall trade in the land. And it was, as they emptied their sacks, behold, each man's money was bound up in his sack, and when they and their father saw the envelopes of their money, they were afraid. And Jacob their father said to them, Me have you made desolate, Joseph is not, and Shimeon is not here, and Benjamin you would take away, upon me are all these. And Reuben spake with his father, saying, Thou shalt put my 2 children to death if I do not bring him back to thee. Deliver him into my hand, and I will return him to thee. But he said, My son shall not go down with you, for his brother is dead, and he alone remains, and if death should befall him in the way in which you will go, you will bring down my gray hairs with mourning unto Sheol. Genesis 43. But the famine prevailed in the land. And it was when they had ended to eat the corn which they had brought from Mizraim, that their father said to them, Return, and buy for us a little corn. And Jehudah spake to him, saying, The men attested to us, saying, You shall not see my face unless your brother be with you. If thou wilt send our brother with us, we will go down and buy thee corn, but if thou wilt not send, we will not go down, for the man told us, You shall not see my face unless your brother be with you. And Israel said, Why did you do me this evil, in showing the man that you have a brother? And they said, The man asked us concerning our family, saying, Is your father yet alive? Have you a brother? And we showed him according to the word of these things, knowing could we know that he would say, Bring your brother to me? And Jehudah said to Israel his father, Send the youth with me, and let us arise and go, that we may live and not die, we, and thou, and our little ones. I will be the pledge for him, of my hand shalt thou require him, if I do not bring him back to thee, and set him before thee, let mine be the sin with thee all the days. For except we had delayed in this, we might now have returned twice. And Israel their father said to them, If then it is to be, do this, take of what is praiseworthy in the land in your vessels, and carry down to the man an offering, a little gum, and a little honey, storix and ladanum, nuts and almonds, and silver, 2 for 1 take in your hands, even the silver which was returned in the mouth of your bags take back in your hands, perhaps it was an oversight. And take your brother, and arise, return to the man, and God the Almighty give you favor before the man, that he may release to you your other brother and Benjamin. And I, when desolated, shall be desolate. And the men took that offering, and the money 2 for 1 took they in their hands, and they took Benjamin, and arose, and went down into Mizraim, and stood before Joseph. And Joseph saw Benjamin with them, and he said to him who was appointed over his house, Bring the men into the house, and kill a killing and prepare, for the men shall eat with me at dinner. And the man did as Joseph had said, and the man brought the men into Joseph's house. And the men were afraid because they were brought into the house of Joseph, and said, It is on account of the money that was returned in our baggage at first, that we are brought in, that he might domineer over us, and find occasion against us, and take possession of us as slaves, and seize upon our asses. And they drew near the man who was set over Joseph's house, and spake with him at the gate of the house, and said, We entreat my lord to hear us. Descending we came down at first to buy corn. And it was while we were at the resting place, we opened our baggage, and, behold, a man's silver was in the mouth of the bag, the silver in its weight. But we have returned it in our hand. And other silver have we brought in our hand to buy corn. We knew not who put the silver in our baggage. And he said, Peace be to you, fear not, your God, and the God of your father, gave you treasure in your bags, your money came to me. And he brought out Shimeon to them. And the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and gave water, and they washed their feet, and he gave provender for their asses. And they made ready the offering against the entrance of Joseph to dinner, for they had heard that there they were to eat bread. And Joseph entered the house, and they brought to him the offering which was in their hands into the house, and they bowed to him upon the ground. And he saluted them, and said, Is your father well, the old man you spake of? Is he yet alive? And they said, It is well with thy servant our father, he is yet alive, and they bowed and worshipped. And he lifted up his eyes, and saw Benjamin his brother, the son of his mother, and he said, Is this your youngest brother of whom you spake to me? And he said, Mercy from the Lord be upon thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels were moved over his brother, and he sought where to weep. And he entered into the chamber, the place of sleeping, and wept there. And he washed his face, and came out, and was comforted, and said, Put on bread. And they set for him alone, and for them alone, and for the Mizrahi who ate with him, alone. For the Mizrahi might not eat bread with the Hivrei, because the animals that the Mizrahi worshipped the Hivrei did eat. And they reclined before him, the chief according to his chiefship, and the less according to his minority, and the men wondered, each man at his companion. And portions were brought from him, and set before them, and greater was Benjamin's portion than the portions of them all 5 portions. And they drank and were merry with him. Genesis 44. And Joseph commanded the steward of his house, saying, Fill the men's bags with corn as much as they can carry, and put each man's money in the mouth of his baggage. And put my cup, the silver cup, in the mouth of the youngest one's baggage, and his purchase money. And he did according to Joseph's word which he spake. The morning lightened, and the men were sent away, they and their asses. They had not gone far from the city, when Joseph said to him who was set over his house, Arise, follow after the men, and overtake them, and say to them, Why have you rendered evil for good? Is it not this from which my Lord drinketh, and, behold, by which inquiring he inquireth? You have done the thing that is evil. And he overtook them, and spake with them these words. And they said, Why does my Lord speak these words? Be it far from thy servants to do according to this thing. Behold, the money which we found in the mouth of our baggages we brought to thee again from the land of Canaan. How then should we steal from the house of thy Lord vessels of silver, or vessels of gold? With whomsoever of thy servants it is found, let him die, and we also will be servants to my Lord. And he said, According to your words, so let it be. With whomsoever it is found, he shall be my servant, but you will be acquitted. And they made haste, and brought down every man his baggage to the ground, and every man opened his baggage. And he searched, beginning with the greatest and finishing with the least, and the chalice was found in the baggage of Benjamin. And they rent their clothes, and laded every man his ass, and returned to the city. And Jehudah entered and his brothers into Joseph's house, for he was still there, and they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said to them, What work is this which you have done? Did you not know that a man like me divining can divine? And Jehudah said to him, What shall we say to my Lord? What shall we speak? How shall we be justified? Before the Lord there is sin found in thy servants. Behold, we are the servants of my Lord, we also and he in whose hand the chalice hath been found. But he said, Far be it from me to do so, the man in whose hand the chalice has been found shall be my servant, but go you up in peace to your father. And Jehudah came near to him and said, We beseech my Lord, let thy servant speak a word before my Lord, and let not thine anger be great with thy servant, for as Pharaoh so art thou. My Lord asked his servants, saying, Have you a father or a brother? And we told my Lord, We have an aged father, and the youngest son is the son of his old age, his brother is dead, and he only remains of his mother, and his father loves him. And thou saidst to thy servants, Bring him down to me, and let me set mine eyes upon him. And we told my Lord, His father cannot part with the youth, for if our father should part with him, he would die. And thou saidst to thy servants, If your youngest brother come not down with you, you shall not see my face again. And it was when we had gone up to our father, we told him these words of my Lord. And our father said to us, Return, and buy us a little corn. And we said, We cannot go down, if our youngest brother go down with us, we will go down, for we shall not be able to see the man's face unless our youngest brother go down with us. And thy servant our father said to us, You know that my wife bare me 2 sons. One went forth from me, and I have said, Dying he is dead, and I have not beheld him since. And if you take this one also from me, and death happen to him, you will bring down my age with evil unto Sheol. And now, when I come to thy servant my father, and the youth be not with us, and his soul loveth him as his own soul, when he seeth that the youth is not with us, he will die, and thy servant will have brought down the age of thy servant our father with mourning unto Sheol. For thy servant was surety for the youth with our father, saying, If I bring him not to thee, let my father hold me guilty all the days. And now let thy servant remain instead of the youth, as the servant of my Lord, and let the youth go up with his brothers. For how can I go up to my father, and the youth be not with me? Lest I should see the evil that will come upon my father. Genesis 45. And Joseph was not able to sustain all that was being upon him, and he cried, Let every man go out from me, and no man stood with him, while Joseph made himself known to his brethren. And he gave forth his voice with weeping, and the Mizrahi heard, and a man of Pharaoh's house heard. And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph. Is my father yet living? And his brethren were not able to answer him a word, for they were confounded before him. And Joseph said to his brothers, Come near now to me. And they came near. And he said, I am Joseph your brother, whom you sold into Mizraim. And now do not be troubled, and let it not be afflictive in your eyes that you sold me hither, for to sustain life did the Lord send me before you. For these 2 years hath famine been in the land, and there are yet 5 years in which there will be neither seed nor harvest. And the Lord sent me before you to set a remnant in the earth, and to keep you alive by a great deliverance. And now, it was not you who sent me hither, but it was from before the Lord, who hath set me to be a father unto Pharaoh, and to rule all the men of his house, holding power over all the land of Mizraim. Hasten, then, and go up to my father, and say to him, Thus saith thy son Joseph, The Lord hath set me ruler over the Mizraim. Come down to me, delay not, and thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen, and be near me, thou, and thy sons children, and thy sheep and thy oxen, and all that thou hast. And I will nourish thee there, for there are yet 5 years of famine, lest thou, and the men of thy house, and all that thou hast, be wasted away. And, behold, your eyes see, and the eyes of my brother Benjamin, that in your language I speak with you. And you will show my father all my glory in Mizraim, and all that you see, and make haste, and bring down my father hither. And he fell upon the neck of Benjamin his brother, and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. And he kissed all his brothers, and wept over them, and afterward his brothers discoursed with him. And a voice was heard in the house of Pharaoh, saying, The brothers of Joseph are come. And it was pleasing in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of his servants. And Pharaoh said to Joseph, Tell my brethren, do this, lade your beasts and go, carry into the land of Canaan, and take your father and the men of your house and come to me, and I will give you the good of the land of Mizraim, and you shall eat the good of the land. And now thou art commanded, this do. Take to you out of the land of Mizraim wagons for your children, and your wives, and bring your father, and come. And let not your eye look wistfully upon your furniture, for the good of all the land of Mizraim is your own. And the sons of Israel did so, and Joseph gave them wagons, according to the word of Pharaoh, and he gave them provisions for the way. And he gave to every one of them vestments for wearing, and to Benjamin gave he 300 shekels of silver, and 5 vestments for wearing. And to his father he sent 10 asses laden with the good things of Mizraim, and 10 she-asses laden with corn, and bread and provisions for the way. And he dismissed his brethren, and they went, and he said to them, Do not contend by the way. And they went up from Mizraim and came into the land of Canaan, unto Jacob their father. And they showed him, saying, Joseph is yet alive, and he ruleth over all the land of Mizraim. And these words were uncertain upon his heart, because he did not believe them. And they told him all the words of Joseph which he had spoken with them, and he saw the wagons that Joseph had sent to fetch him, and the Holy Spirit rested upon Jacob their father. And Israel said, Great to me is the joy. Joseph my son is yet alive, I will go, and behold him before I die. Genesis 46. And Israel journeyed, and all that he had, and came to Beersheba, and he offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And the Lord spake to Israel in a vision of the night, and said, Jacob, Jacob. And he said, Behold, I am. And he said, I am God, the God of thy father, fear not to go down into Mizraim, for a great people will I make thee there. I will go down with thee into Mizraim, and will surely bring thee up, but Joseph shall lay his hand upon thine eyes. And Jacob arose from Beersheba. And the sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, and their children, and their wives, in the wagons which Pharaoh had sent to fetch them. And they took their flocks and their substance which they had gotten in the land of Canaan, and came to Mizraim, Jacob and all his sons with him. His sons, and his sons' sons with him, his daughters, and the daughters of his sons, and all his seed, he brought with him into Mizraim. And these are the names of the sons of Israel which came into Mizraim, Jacob and his sons. The firstborn of Jacob, Reuben. And the sons of Reuben, Hanok and Felah, Hezron and Carmi. And the sons of Sheman, Jemuel, and Janine, and Ahad, and Jachin, and Zochar, and Shaul, the son of Achananitha. And the sons of Levi, Gershon, Kath, and Merari. And the sons of Jehudah, and Onan, and Shelah, and Pharetz, and Zarek. But and Onan had died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Pharetz, Hishron, and Chamel. And the sons of Issachar, Tola, and Phua, and Job, and Semeron. And the sons of Zabulon, Serach, and Elon, and Jaleel. These are the sons of Leah, which she bare to Jacob in Paddan Aram, and Dinah his daughter, all the souls, his sons and his daughters, 30 And the children of Gad, Sephion, and Haggi, Shunah and Esban, Eri, and Arodi, and Areli. And the sons of Asher, Jemnah, and Jeshva, and Jeshvi, and Beriah, and Serach, their sister. And the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Malchiel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter, and she bare these unto Jacob, 16 souls. The sons of Rahel, the wife of Jacob, Joseph, and Benjamin. And to Joseph were born in the land of Mizraim, Manasseh, and Ephraim, whom Asenath, daughter of Potipherah, prince of On, bare unto him. And the sons of Benjamin, Bela, and Bechor, and Ashbel, Jerah, and Naaman, Achi, and Rush, Muppim, and Huppim, and Arid. These are the sons of Rahel which were born to Jacob, all the souls 14. And the sons of Dan, Hushim, and the sons of Naphtali, Uzziel, and Guni, and Jezer, and Shilem. These are the children of Bela, whom Laban gave to Rahel his daughter, and she bare them to Jacob, all the souls 7. All the souls which went with Jacob into Mizraim, which came forth from his loins, besides the wives of Jacob's sons, all the souls, 60. And the sons of Joseph, which were born to him in Mizraim, 2 souls. All the souls of the house of Jacob which went into Mizraim were 70. And he sent Jehudah before him to Joseph, to make the way clear before him at Goshen, and he came to the land of Goshen. And Joseph arrayed his chariot, and went up to meet Israel his father in Goshen. And he saw him, and fell upon his neck, and wept. And he wept still upon his neck. And Israel said to Joseph, I could die at this time. I have consolation now that I have seen thy face, for thou art yet alive. And Joseph said to his brothers, and to the house of his father, I will go up and show Pharaoh, and will tell him, my brethren in the house of my father, who were in the land of Canaan, have come to me. But the men are shepherds of sheep, for the men are masters of flocks, and their sheep and oxen and all that they have brought. And it shall be when Pharaoh calleth you, and shall ask you, what is your employment? You will say, thy servants have been men, the masters of flocks from our youth until now, both we and our fathers, that you made well in the land of Goshen, because the Mizraim keep at a distance all shepherds of flocks. Genesis 47. And Joseph came and showed Pharaoh, and said, my father and my brethren, and their sheep and their oxen, and all that they have, are come from the land of Canaan, and, behold, they are in the land of Goshen. And of the extreme of his brethren he took 5 men, and made them stand before Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to his brethren, what are your employments? And they said to Pharaoh, thy servants are shepherds, both we and our fathers. And they said to Pharaoh, to dwell in the land are we come, for there is no pasture for thy servants' flocks, for the famine prevails in the land of Canaan, and we pray thee let thy servants dwell in the land of Goshen. And Pharaoh spake to Joseph, saying, thy father and thy brethren are come to thee, the land of Mizraim is before thee, in the best of it let thy father and thy brethren dwell, even in the land of Goshen, and if thou know any of them to be men of ability, appoint them to be chiefs over my flocks. And Joseph brought Jacob his father, and presented him before Pharaoh, and Jacob blessed Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said to Jacob, how many are the days of the years of thy life? And Jacob said to Pharaoh, the days of the years of my pilgrimage are 130 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life, and I have not attained to the days of the years of the life of my fathers, in the days of their pilgrimage. And Jacob blessed Pharaoh, and went out from before Pharaoh. And Joseph made his father and his brethren to dwell, and gave them a possession in the land of Mizraim, in the best of the land, in the land of Ramesses, as Pharaoh had commanded. And Joseph sustained his father and his brethren, and all the house of his father, with bread, according to the mouth of the family of each. And there was no bread in all the land, for the famine prevailed greatly, and the people of the land of Mizraim and the people of the land of Canaan failed before the famine. And Joseph collected all the money which was found in the land of Mizraim and in the land of Canaan, for the corn which they bought. And Joseph brought the money into the house of Pharaoh. And the money was finished from the land of Mizraim and from the land of Canaan, and all the Mizraim came to Joseph, saying, give us bread, for why should we die before thee? For the money is finished. And Joseph said, bring your cattle, and I will give you provision, if your money is finished. And they brought their cattle to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread for their horses, and for their flocks of sheep, and for their herds of oxen, and for their asses, and for all their cattle. He fed them with bread for that year. And that year was completed. And they came to him in the 2nd year, and said to him, we will not conceal it from our lord, but the money is ended, and we have delivered up our cattle to our lord, and there is nothing left before our lord but our bodies and our land. Why should we perish before thee, both we and our land? Buy us and our land for bread, and we and our land will be servants to Pharaoh, and give us seed corn, that we may live and not die, and the land may not be desolate. And Joseph acquired all the land of Mizraim for Pharaoh, for the Mizraim sold every man his portion, because the famine prevailed over them, and the land became Pharaoh's. And the people he made him to pass from city to city, from one end of the limit of Mizraim to the other. Only the land of the priests he did not buy, for a portion was given by Pharaoh to the priests, and they ate their portion which Pharaoh gave them, therefore they sold not their land. And Joseph said to the people, behold, I had bought you this day and your land for Pharaoh, behold, I give you seed corn, that you may sow the land. And it shall be, when it bringeth forth produce, that you shall give 1 in 5 to Pharaoh, and 4 parts shall be yours, of the corn of the field, that you and the men of your house may eat, and your little ones have food. And they said, thou hast preserved us, may we find grace in the eyes of my lord, and we will be the servants of Pharaoh. And Joseph made it a statute unto this day over the land of Mizraim, that 1 of 5 should be given to Pharaoh, only the land of the priests alone was not Pharaoh's. And Israel dwelt in the land of Mizraim in the land of Goshen, and possessed it, and they increased and multiplied greatly. And Jacob lived in the land of Mizraim 17 years. And the days of the years of the life of Jacob were 147 years. And the days of Israel drew near to die. And he called to his son, to Joseph, and said to him, If now I have found favor in thine eyes, put, I beseech thee, thine hand under my thigh, and deal with me in goodness and truth, nor bury me, I beseech thee, in Mizraim. But I will sleep with my fathers, and thou shalt carry me from Mizraim, and bury me in their sepulchre. And he said, I will do according to thy word. And he said, Swear to me, and he sware to him. And Israel worshipped upon the pillow of the bed. Genesis 48. And it was after these words that it was said to Joseph, Behold, thy father is ill. And he took his 2 sons with him, Manasseh and Ephraim. And it was shown to Jacob, and told him, Behold, thy son Joseph cometh to thee. And Israel was strengthened, and he sat upon the bed. And Jacob said to Joseph, El Shaddai revealed himself to me in Luz, in the land of Canaan, and blessed me, and he said to me, Behold, I will multiply thee, and make thee great, and will set thee for an assembly of tribes, and will give this land to thy sons after thee for an everlasting inheritance. And now thy 2 sons which were born to thee in the land of Mizraim, before my coming to thee into Mizraim, are mine, Ephraim and Manasseh shall be as Reuben and Shimeon before me. And the children whom thou mayest beget after them, who shall be thine, after the name of their brethren they shall be called in their inheritance. And I, in my coming from Padan, Rahel died by me in the land of Canaan, in the way, while as yet there was a space of ground to come unto Ephrat. And I buried her there, by the way to Ephrat, which is Bethlehem. And Israel saw the sons of Joseph, and said, Who are these? And Joseph said to his father, They are my sons whom the Lord hath given me here. And he said, Bring them now near to me, that I may bless them. But the eyes of Israel were heavy from age, and he could not discern. And he brought them near to him, and he kissed them, and embraced them. And Israel said to Joseph, I had not hoped to see thy face, and, behold, the Lord hath showed me thy sons also. And Joseph led them from before him, and worshipped with his face on the earth. And Joseph took both of them, Ephraim in his right hand, on the left of Israel, and Manasseh in his left hand, on the right of Israel, and brought them to him. And Israel stretched out his right hand, and laid it on the head of Ephraim, who was the younger, and his left hand on the head of Manasseh, using his hands designingly, or, instructing his hands, for Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph, and said, The Lord, before whom my fathers Abraham and Isaac did serve, the Lord, who fed me from my coming unto this day, the angel who redeemed me from all evil, bless the youths, and let my name be called upon them, and the name of my fathers Abraham and Isaac, and as the fish of the sea may they multiply among the children of men upon the earth. And Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand upon the head of Ephraim, and it was evil in his eyes. And he uplifted his father's hand, to remove it from Ephraim's head, that it might rest on the head of Manasseh. And Joseph said to his father, Not so, my father, for this is the firstborn, lay thy right hand on his head. But his father willed not, and said, I know, my son, I know, he also shall be for a people, and he also shall be great, yet his younger brother will be greater than he, and his sons shall have dominion among the nations. And he blessed them in that day, saying, By thee shall Israel bless, saying, The Lord set thee as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim before Manasseh. And Israel said to Joseph, Behold, I die, but the word of the Lord will be your helper, and restore you to the land of your fathers. And I will give thee one portion more than thy brethren, which I took from the band of the Amorah by my prayer and by my deprecation. Genesis 49. And Jacob called his sons, and said, Gather together, and I will show you what will befall you in the end of the days. Assemble, and hearken, O sons of Jacob, and receive instruction from Israel your father. Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my strength, and the beginning of my power. Thine should it have been taking to take the 3 portions, the birthright, the priesthood, and the kingdom, but because thou hast proceeded perversely, behold, as water outpoured thou wilt not prosper, neither wilt thou receive the excellent portion. Because thou wentest up to thy father's place of sleep, then, my son, didst thou become profane, when thou wentest up to my bed. Shimeon and Levi are brothers, mighty men in the land of their sojourning, they did mightily. My soul was not in their secret, into their company to come I would not have descended from mine honor. For in their anger they slew a slaughter, and in their willfulness they raised the wall of their enemy. Accursed was their anger, for it was strong, and their wrath, for it was relentless. I will divide them in Jacob, and I will scatter them in Israel. Jehudah, thou art praise and not shame, thy brethren shall praise thee, thy hand shall prevail against thine adversaries, thine enemies shall be dispersed, they will be turned backward before thee, and the sons of thy father will come before thee with salutations. The dominion shall be thine in the beginning, and in the end the kingdom shall be increased from the house of Jehudah, because from the judgment of death, my son, hast thou withdrawn. He shall repose, and abide in strength as a lion, and as a lioness, there shall be no king that may cut him off. He who exerciseth dominion shall not pass away from the house of Jehudah, nor the scepter from his children's children forever, until the Messiah come, whose is the kingdom, and unto whom shall be the obedience of the nations, or whom the peoples shall obey. Israel shall pass round about in his cities, the people shall build his temple, they will be righteous round about him, and be doers of the law through his doctrine. Of goodly purple will be his raiment, and his vesture of crimson wool with colors. His mountains shall be red with his vineyards, and his hills be dropping with wine, his valleys shall be white with corn, and with flocks of sheep. Zebulun will dwell nigh the haven of the sea, he will subdue provinces with ships, and will eat the good of the sea, and his boundary shall come unto Sidon. Issachar, rich in substance, will have his heritage between the boundaries, and he, seeing his portion that it is good, and the land that it is fruit-bearing, will subdue the provinces of the people, and disperse their inhabitants, and they who remain of them will become servants to him and bringers of tribute. From the house of Dan will be chosen and will arise a man in whose days his people shall be delivered, and in whose years the tribes of Israel have rest together. A chosen man will arise from the house of Dan, the terror of whom shall fall upon the peoples, a man who will smite the Philistines with strength, as the serpent, the deadly serpent, lurking by the way. He will slay the mighty of the Philistines' host, the horsemen with the foot, he will weaken loosened horses and chariots, and throw their riders backward. For thy salvation have I waited, O Lord. From the house of Gad will armed hosts go over the Jardina before their brethren to the battle, and with much substance will they return unto their land. The land of Asher will be good, and he shall be nourished with the dainties of kings. In a good land will the lot of Naphtali be cast, and his inheritance be fruitful, over them will they give praise and benediction. Joseph is my son who shall increase, my son who shall be blessed, as a vine planted by a fountain of waters. 2 tribes will come forth from his sons, and they shall receive a portion and inheritance. The mighty men, the men of division, were bitter against him, they afflicted him and sorely grieved him. And his prophecy shall be fulfilled in them, because he was faithful to the law in secret, and set his confidence firmly. Therefore was gold laid upon his arm, and the kingdom was strengthened and confirmed. This was to him from the mighty God of Jacob, who by his word pastureth the fathers and the children of the seed of Israel. The word of the God of thy father shall be thy helper, and the all-sufficient shall bless thee, with the blessings of the dew that descends from the heavens above, with the blessings that spring from the depths of the earth beneath, with the blessings of thy father and of thy mother. The blessing of thy father shall be added upon the blessing with which my fathers blessed me, which the princes who are of the world have desired, all of them shall be upon the head of Joseph, and upon the man who was separated from his brethren. Benjamin, in his land will dwell the Shekinah, and in his possession will the sanctuary be builded. In the morning and evening will the priests offer the oblation, and at eventime divide the remaining portions of the residue of the sacred things. All these the tribes of Israel are 12, and this it is which their father spake to them, and blessed them, according to the blessing of each man, blessed he them. And he commanded them, and said to them, I am to be gathered unto my people, bury me with my fathers in the cavern which is in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cavern which is in the double field over against Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which field Abraham bought of Ephron the Hittite for an inheritance sepulchre. There buried they Abraham and Sarah his wife, there buried they Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there buried Leah. The field, and the cavern that is in it, purchased of the sons of Hittite. And Jacob ceased to instruct his sons, and drew his feet together in the bed, and died, and was gathered unto his people. Genesis 50. And Joseph fell upon his father's face, and wept over him, and kissed him. And Joseph commanded his servants, the physicians, to embalm his father, and the physicians embalmed Israel. And 40 days were completed to him, for so are completed the days of the embalmed, and the Mizrahi mourned for him 70 days. And the days of his mourning passed, and Joseph spake with the house of Pharaoh, saying, If now I have found favor in your eyes, speak, I pray, before Pharaoh, saying, My father adjured me, saying, Behold, I die, in my sepulchre which I have prepared for me in the land of Canaan, there shalt thou bury me. And now let me go up, I pray, and I will bury my father and return. And Pharaoh said, Go up and bury thy father, as he adjured thee. And Joseph went up to bury his father, and all the servants of Pharaoh, the elders of his house, and all the elders of the land of Mizraim, went up with him, and all the house of Joseph, and his brethren, and the house of his father, only the children, and the flocks, and the cattle, they left in the land of Goshen. And with him went up, also, chariots and horsemen, and there was a very great host. And they came to the threshing floor of Atad, which is beyond Jardina, and lamented there with lamentations great and very strong. And he made a mourning for his father 7 days. And the inhabitants of the land of Canaan saw the mourning at the threshing floor of Atad, and said, This is a mighty mourning of the Mizrahi, therefore its name is called Abel Mizraim, which is beyond Jardina. And his sons did as he had commanded them. And his sons carried him into the land of Canaan, and buried him in the cavern of the double field, which Abraham bought for an inheritance sepulchre of Ephron the Hittite, before Mamre. And Joseph returned into Mizraim, he and his brethren, and all who went up with him to bury his father, after he had buried his father. And the brethren of Joseph saw that their father was dead, and they said, Perhaps Joseph will retain enmity against us, and requiting will requite us all the evil which we did him. And they made visitation to Joseph, saying, Thy father commanded before his death, saying, Thus shall you speak to Joseph, I pray you to forgive the guilt of thy brethren and their sin wherewith they did evil against thee. And now forgive, I beseech thee, the guilt of the servants of the God of thy father. And Joseph wept when they spake with him. And his brethren came and fell before him, and said, Behold, we are thy servants. And Joseph said to them, Fear not, for I fear the Lord. When you thought evil against me, before the Lord it was intended for good, to be done, as at this day, for the preservation of much people. And now do not fear, I will sustain you and your children. And he consoled them, and spake consolation to their heart. And Joseph dwelt in Mizraim, he and his father's house. And Joseph lived 110 years. And Joseph saw of Ephraim 3 sons, also the sons of Machir, the son of Manasseh, were born, whom Joseph brought up. And Joseph said to his brethren, I die, but the Lord remembering will remember you, and bring you up from this land to the land of which he sware to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph adjured the sons of Israel, saying, The Lord remembering will remember you, and you shall carry my bones up from hence. And Joseph died, the son of 110 years, and they embalmed him, and laid him in an ark in Mizraim.